Hello, good morning. Welcome to The Big Issue. The Big Issue is a platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. My name is Selorm Adonoo. As always, the show is live and interactive. You can join us via our WhatsApp line 0549 986 996 or 020 444 7033. We're also live on Facebook and other social platforms. You can drop your comments under the video on social media, and we'll be happy to reach the world with those comments on your behalf. This morning, we are tackling three key issues which have come up in the week. The first one has to do with the concerns raised by some civil society organizations and the Global Fund in respect of the locked up medical supplies at the Tema port. And this has been on for the past 1 year. 283 containers of medical supplies donated to Ghana by the Global Fund, have still not been cleared. Why have they not been cleared? The supplies were given to us free of charge. The Ministry of Health tells us that they did not have what they called auction cheats to clear those. This week, we have assurances from the Finance Ministry and the Health Ministry that some 7 million Ghana cedis have been allocated or released for the purposes of paying some third-party persons involved in the clearance to make way for the supplies to be taken away from the ports. We are told that the supplies include insecticide-treated mosquito nets, some pharmaceuticals in respect of antiretrovirals, HIV RDTs and ACTs, some tuberculosis medication, and some medical devices and equipment. All of these have been locked up at the port for several months when our people need them. What is the problem? Is it corruption? Is it inaction? Is it lethargy? Or simply our leaders do not care? We want to find out how we can improve the situation, how we can ensure that it doesn't happen again. What would the Global Fund be thinking actually? We understand that they've had some strong words for our authorities, and indeed, what would they be thinking? Would they be willing to continue helping us in this respect when they do so in other countries and they don't see this result, but they do it in Ghana, and this is what it is? Indeed, we understand that this is the first time they say they are seeing a thing like this. What is happening in Ghana? Why can't we do the very simple things? A sovereign country, we can't do simple things like clearing medical supplies donated to you for free by the Global Fund. We leave them at the port. We don't even know the state of these supplies. There should surely be expiry dates on some of the medical supplies, also left at the mercy of the weather, when usually these medical supplies have specific temperatures or specific conditions they should be stored in. We'll look at all of that and see what we can do moving forward. Also, this week, some unfortunate thing popped up. We saw a video of a young man wanting to be MP for the Amenfi East area, almost inciting young people, illegal minors, to attack and even arrest soldiers and policemen when they come around to inspect or arrest them. Why will somebody seeking to go to parliament, make laws for their country, be speaking to young people and be saying these kinds of things? Is this where we have come to as a country? Is it all for politics? Is it all for power? And what is power for, actually? Is it not to solve problems? Why do we want to create problems before we get there? Shouldn't we be thinking about solutions to this Galamsey menace? Are we even aware? Was the gentleman aware of the menace, of the difficulties and challenges and problems the illegal mining situation or problem is causing our environment? Does it see the water bodies in the western region and central regions at all? Does it care about those? And what should authorities be doing? He's been arrested and granted bail. Why shouldn't we have arranged him by now? The MPP as a political party has been mute. Shouldn't they be speaking and condemning this, given that the unemployment rate in our country is so huge? Is that how a responsible person should be speaking to young people? We will look at all of that. And that is in the context of election 2024, actually. You recall that after the 2020 elections, we were fed with the narrative that the MPP lost a lot of the seats or underperformed in the Galamsey areas because the government or the party, for that matter, was strict on the practice. And so does it mean that we want to relax how we dealt with it in 2020, if we've not relaxed it already. We will look at all of that and see whether the political class has failed Ghanaians in the fight against galamsey. In the final stage of the program, or in the final phase of the program, we'll take a quick look at what the Constitution Review Committee has been doing. They've suggested or recommended a number of things. For example, they say they want the president to pay tax. They want the members of parliament, the number of members of parliament to be capped at 277. Why 277? So that will mean that a number of constitutional amendments will be occasioned. They've said quite a number of other things, that there should be no regional ministers, there should be no deputy ministers, and that we can run the country just fine without these people. Would all of that be in an attempt to save the state some money and all of that? We will see how feasible these recommendations are. Others have said the Constitution itself has no problem. The problem is with the Ghanaian, the value system of the Ghanaian. Instead of spending time and money amending the Constitution, we should spend those efforts in helping the Ghanaian develop a proper value system, so that no matter the Constitution, if the person has a proper value system, the person will do the right thing. The argument is that if you change the Constitution and you place somebody who has no values and morals in the helm of affairs, the person will still abuse it. Where do you stand in this discussion? We want to hear from you. 0549986996. I'll take a short break. I will return, provide you some updates, introduce my guest, and then we'll get a discussion underway. Once again, this is a big issue. You are welcome. Hello, you're welcome back. This is The Big Issue. We are live on 97.3 City FM. Three issues we are discussing this day or today. One has to do with what has become known as the locked up medical supplies at the Tema Port. We understand some 283 containers of medical supplies donated by the Global Fund have still not been cleared over 1 year after they reached Ghana. A number of reasons have been given, but people think that it's been down to political inaction, lack of seriousness, and lack of commitment to do the right thing. Why should people donate to you for free several medical supplies in over 1 year? You've not been able to clear them when you have the power, when you should be able to do so, and indeed when your people need those supplies. We'll look at that this morning. Also, the war against illegal mining, have we lost it? Are we in the middle of it? Where are we? You saw this week a video of a parliamentary candidate on the ticket of the ruling MPP in the Amenfi East constituency, almost inciting young people, illegal miners, that they should attack military people and police people who come around to arrest them, and that the power to arrest is being taken away from them. And so when they come around to harass them, they should beat them up or they should arrest them. How responsible or irresponsible is this statement or comment from someone aspiring to be a lawmaker? We'll look at all of that. Indeed, the regional minister, who is the chairman of the Regional Security Council, the one who sits on top of the regional security, was in that meeting. But it didn't appear from all that we saw and heard afterwards that he had any problem with that serious statement which came from a member of his party, a parliamentary candidate on the ticket of his party. Have we lost the fight? Is it political inaction? Is it lack of political will? Has the political class failed us in that fight? What can we be doing next? Should citizens be encouraged to fight security people who will pay to do their work, ensuring the integrity of the environment, ensuring that our water bodies are clean, ensuring that the soil or the earth is not degraded further than we have it? What should be the matters in this? We want to know. Also, in the last part of the show, we'll look at the Constitution Review Committee's recent recommendations. They've recommended a number of things. They want regional ministers, deputy regional ministers be scrapped. Of course, now we don't have regional ministers. They want members of parliament to be capped at 277. We have 275 now. Guan comes on stream or on board, 276. But they want it to be 277. We don't know why. Why not 300? Why not? I'm not sure they can reduce it. But why 277? And that will occasion some constitutional amendments as well. We want to see what you think. We'll subject that to some discussion as well. People think that amending the constitution is not the most important thing Ghana needs now. What Ghana needs now is we need to rejig our value system. We need to rework our value system, because if you put a corrupt man at the top, no matter how the constitution is, you abuse it. But if you put a good man with good conscience there, the constitution may give him powers to do some things. But if he has a good value system, if he has good conscience, he will not abuse it, or he will not do what is wrong. I want to know what you think, and we will subject these to some discussion. This whole thing about constitutional amendment, is it not too much noise? Is it necessary at all? I mean, why can't we just do the right things and move on? This is our show, or what we'll be looking at this morning. Now, let me provide you some updates quickly, then I introduce my guests, then we get a discussion started. Now, the Ministry of Health has reassured that its relationship with the Global Fund will remain intact despite ongoing delays in clearing medical supplies from the port. The ministry has pledged to clear the backlog of medical supplies within the next 2 weeks. This commitment follows rising concerns and planned demonstrations by health-focused civil society organizations who are advocating for the release of essential Global Fund medicines for malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV. Amidst fears of these delays could jeopardize Ghana's standing with the Global Fund, Health Minister Dr. Okobo has affirmed that the ministry is actively engaging with Global Fund stakeholders to find a resolution.
Something is not too perfect and is affecting a relationship negative, is not positive for the relationship. What do? You show signals that you are serious about the relationship. I was in Geneva, I met the head of the Global Fund, and I told him that, look, take it from me. I'm going to work hard to make sure that we clear these containers this month. In fact, he even said that the meetings with his team, the country, Global Fund country team, is not too regular. I told him every week, I'm ready to meet your team. Yesterday, I met the team. So we've taken enough steps to let them know. In fact, even within the Ministry of Health, our team that works with Global Fund, we've done some changes just to send a signal that we want to improve on the relationship. And it's in the interest of both Ghana and Global Fund to work together, because the funds and commodities that they have, once we have patients here, they can't go and throw it away. They need to give it to us. We also have obligations. We also have to work towards it, and that we are going to do.
All right, so you heard Health Minister Dr. Okoboy giving some assurances there. He's been minister for less than 3 weeks. Before, he was in the ministry as a deputy, the man who did a lot around the COVID time. He became boss at NHIA. Now he has the job itself. He is promising to clear this mess in 2 weeks. He says after 2 weeks, if it doesn't happen, he will go and sit at the port himself we wait to see how that plays out. So this morning, to help us with the discussion, two doctors, also two people who understand Parliament and all of that. So they will give us a good show, I guess. Dr. Dixon Adomaku-Kisi, Member of Parliament for the Anya Soutum constituency. Dr. Grace Ayensu Dankwa, NDC parliamentary candidate for the Escado Ketan constituency in the Western region. Also, Ernest Otin, who is president of the Ghana HIV/AIDS Network and the Ghana Coordinating Mechanism for the Global Fund. He will join us as well. Franklin Kujo, president of Imani Africa, as always, will also join us on the show. Gentlemen and lady, welcome to the program. It's a pleasure having the two of you here. I have two medical doctors, and I find myself in the middle. I hope I'm not bamboozled, but that's fine. So we start off with the matter of the Global Fund. It came up before in April. Mm-hmm. We were given assurances that, again, they said 2 weeks or so from that time, everything was going to be cleared. Here we are 2-3 months down the line, or 2 months down the line. The same thing has happened. Mm-hmm. Now, this time around, we're being told that some auction cheats have been secured. But this did not come out of nothing. Civil society groups in the health sector threatened. They actually wrote to the president on the 11th of June. Now, they issued this statement on the 13th of June. And the threat was that on the 25th of June, they were going to hit the streets and demonstrate. Global Fund is not happy, etc., etc. I'll start with you, Dr. Adomaku-Kisi. I mean, you obviously know about the Global Fund and what they do. How did we get here? What's your understanding of the situation we have with the Global Fund supplies and the port, and why we've not been able to clear it?
Well, let me also say good morning to you, and more importantly, our viewers worldwide and locally. And then, Doctor, good morning to you as well. Let me, first of all, start off with one key thing, that the Global Fund wishes to end tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV in the world. And that has been their core vision. And they've been at it, though there's been challenges worldwide because of, COVID becoming a front burner issue from 2020. So Global Fund itself acknowledged that their logistics or attention or the funding they were getting for executing this vision, which is actually an SDG 3, thing, had challenges. So that has been at the back burner, for many countries, and they are hoping that once the COVID issues are now literally done with, countries will refocus on ending the likes of tuberculosis, HIV, and even viral hepatitis. So that is what Global Fund does. Now, one other key thing which many people may not appreciate is the fact that worldwide, as your country's GDP improves, or you get into a certain bracket, the expectation is that you learn to walk the talk. And what it means is that the extraordinary support that the funds provide for you start diminishing. So as you get bigger and better as a nation in terms of your net worth, then you are expected to be going off on many health support. And this is not just a Global Fund. There are many other things. I mean, let me be very frank and as honest as it is. Vaccine issues earlier this year was also as a result of the expectation that Ghana should muscle up or, gear up for taking over many things that were hitherto provided to us at no cost. So in recalibrating or readjusting as a nation to be able to manage our own affairs with regards to getting items from Gavi and all these other world organizations. These are some of the challenges that I think will happen, because then it's almost like a wedding production. Who finally has a wedding ring? Who has this? Because literally people have been doing it for you, and now you have to cross your T's and dot your I's. And I think that we've goofed a little, in all honesty.
A little?
The unfortunate thing, and we have to be as realistic as possible, and let me admit that our finances in the country are quite challenging, and that one is not me saying. The president has said it, the finance minister has said it, the former finance minister has also said it. So our priorities would shift, and the availability of funds will also be a problem. So I wouldn't say that we haven't have a misstep. We have had a misstep, and it's unfortunate that items that are very useful in terms of our health prevention activities have suffered. And I was in Cape Coast not too long ago to distribute some of the nets, and in fact, I must admit that as it stands, Ghana has some stock in circulation. So it is not the case that, though these things are at the port, that we are without any nettings.
So insecticide, mosquito nets, for example, I'm not sure everyone who needs it has it.
Oh, agreeable.
So if we had what's at the port, it could only make the situation better.
And it would move us more towards ending malaria, which is a priority.
Is it a priority? If it were, we wouldn't have these. It's a priority in words or on paper. But in practice, we've not given that attention to what we call a priority. Else we would have cleared the containers. How many of them? 272 containers of insecticide-treated nets. I can only imagine how many individual nets are in 272 containers. A lot could be done.
It's a huge amount, and like I said, it's unfortunate, but this is as part of our transitioning into being able to manage some of our own affairs with regards to, many of the, let me say, health-related funds. But let me say that we have now a health minister.
But we've always had a health minister.
Let me just make my submission. Sure. Who I think will be very proactive and will, I think, appreciate these challenges a bit more. And I mean, and I think that he has the experience largely because of his initial workings in the ministry as a deputy. And I think that also being young and very dynamic, I know what Okoboy can do. So this will be a challenge that I think he'll surmount. And as it's been stated, we also have, let me say, another finance minister, new, whose responsiveness may be also a bit different, in the sense that I think he's released over 7 million Ghana cedis towards the clearance of these materials. So I think that one word I love is Bojidi. So that, I'll plead with Ghanaians. And I must admit, one container of TB medications, very important. I won't discount it as not being very important. It is very important. And I know that many health practitioners have relaxed on tuberculosis in this country. And I think that it's even an opportunity for us to bring it up again and discuss how chest infections, chronic ones, the likes of tuberculosis, are still worrying us. And if we would even tie this to BCG, which we had some issues with clearly, we're not doing well. And I think that Okoboy will turn things around. Not that just him, but I think the Ministry of Health, in terms of their challenges post-COVID, will reshape and refocus on all these things that are hot burner issues, including hypertension, which is really doing us a lot of mishaps in our many families. So, in concluding, I think that I like the response of the health minister. He seems to be aware of the challenges, which is very important, and he's taken some steps, including Finance Ministry, Dr. Amin, and I'm very happy that the two have been able to make, let me say, better late than never. Though late, they've come in. And one core thing that the Ghana Health Services have also told us is the fact that despite all of this, we've not been out of tuberculosis medication, which I think, based on that, my level of, let me say, upsetness is a bit, down. If just from a logistical, managerial standpoint, yeah.
Very well. Doc Dankwa, Ayesu Dankwa.
Compound.
Ayesu Dankwa compound. Of course, you know the sector quite well as well. How do you think, how did we get here? I mean, how do you think we got here?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to my constituency, the people that are watching me, and I'm also thankful and grateful that they have given me the opportunity to be their next MP. I also like to say thank you to President Mahama for the great work he has done in the past and the great work he's going to do once he becomes the next president of Ghana. It's interesting. And then, lastly, I want to say Baka de Salah to all of my Muslim family, friends.
That's coming Monday, right?
No, on Sunday.
Sunday, okay,
it's
so
on
Monday.
Sunday. So Baka de Salah, Nyankopon, I want to speak Fanti a little bit. Nyankopon omoye nyinara awodzen, Nyankopon omoye na pomudzen, and Nyankopon omoye nyina nkwatintin.
Great.
So it's interesting that we are here today with this Global Fund issue. It's been going on for about a year, like you indicated. And now I see from all indications that everything now rests on one Minister of Health that only came into be a Minister of Health only last month. This whole idea of turfing where the buck stops to the new minister. So now all of a sudden we have so much confidence in the new minister, and he's going to solve all of our health problems that we had in the past. Is it an indication that there's a lack of confidence in the former Minister of Health?
That's why it's been changed.
Or is it the lack of confidence in the former finance minister?
That's
so they need to admit that then that implies that the former Ministry of Health failed and the former finance minister have failed. So once they admit that, then we can go forward. But to now all of a sudden,
but it's not implicit. It's not implied in there that once you've been changed, it means your time is up. I mean, you've lost energy, or your gas is run out. So let somebody else come.
Not necessarily. Sometimes you do a reshuffle because now you're trying to plug certain holes and you're putting people in the right places. You know, it's like you're playing a chess game and you realize that this person has to be here. So it doesn't necessarily mean a total lack of confidence in the person who just left.
Very well.
So from all indication is that a total lack of confidence in our former Minister of Health, he has failed, and also our former finance minister have failed. I heard the new Minister of Health talking about the same issues about now I'm here and now I'm going to solve the problem. How many months? At least it's been a month since he was confirmed. Maybe 2-3 weeks. Okay, and
so I'm sure he's now settling.
And one and a half, almost a year over, the goods are still in the harbor and people are still suffering. In all of this, let's not forget that there are actual lives, Ghanaian lives, that are at stake. In all of this, let's not forget that people have actually died. In all of this, let's not forget that in Ghana, the highest the mortality for under 5, the cause of mortality for under 5 is malaria. So a lot of children under 5 have died in the meantime while these goods are in the harbor. So let's all bring it to a human
But
perspective.
can we connect the death of these people to the goods being stuck at the harbor?
Absolutely. Because remember, we had issues with the vaccines, right? The vaccine shortage. People were maimed and people died in that process. Those are the metrics that we don't measure, you know, and that is how when we talk about these things on such forums, we forget the human factor and the human impact. That mother who just had a baby who is under 5, who the child is in the hospital right now, in one of our hospitals, probably doesn't even have a bed with a no bed syndrome, probably has to sleep on the floor, because I see a lot of mothers with children on the floor in our hospital. And now they've been bitten by mosquitoes and now they can't find malaria treatments because it's stuck in the harbor. So let's bring everything back to what the real issues are. The real issues we're talking about is the impact on real Ghanaian families and real Ghanaian lives. And people have been maimed and died in the process. So
But like the GHS said, we've not run out of supplies. We've not run out of malaria medications. We've not run out of mosquito nets. So this would have just augmented what we have. So it's not like there's none on the market or in the hospitals.
The fact that there's none doesn't mean there's not a shortage. So you're talking about two different things. There's still a shortage of these products in the market. In any case, government of Ghana has a memorandum of understanding with the Global Fund for the malaria memorandum of understanding. So they're supposed to give us $24 million between 2024 to 2026 for medicines. They've pledged to give us $100 million to support our health sector. That is to develop surveillance, oxygen plants, you know, lab systems, and also help with our CHIPS compound. Out of this money, 15% is supposed to be paid by the Ghana government, which is our counterpart fund. And it's only an indication that you are a stakeholder, because they don't want to give everything for free. They let you put something in so that you can
show your commitment.
Exactly, to show commitment that you can own part of the process. As of today, Ghana is still owing $33 million US. And the worst
out of
part,
how much?
Out of the 15% they're supposed to be given, 15% of
Out of
$248 million.
Okay. So that will be around 50 million.
Exactly.
So Ghana owes...
We still owe $33 million.
33 million, okay.
So we still haven't finished paying.
I see.
The NIH 80 million is in the latest budget, right? The Ghana government pledged $80 million towards this counterpart funding. Out of that 80 million, not even $1 has materialized. So it's in the budget. It's been accounted. It's been what's the word?
It's been
planned for, but it's not materialized. So there's clearly a problem here, and that problem is a leadership crisis problem. You cannot blame anyone but to the top. So it goes up to the president and Dr. Bawumia, who is supposed to be our economic management, the head of the economic management team. It's very sad. It's tragic. And for me, I get so sad. Why did they even have to take the Global Fund to make this public? CSOs had to demonstrate or threaten to demonstrate. The minority in parliament have also come out. Why are we here 1.5 years later? And you know, the excuse they're giving is a third-party problem. Who is this third party and how much? And to even make matters worse and even more sad is that the Global Fund itself gave them $2 million towards the clearing of the medicines.
Really?
So aside the free stuff they were bringing, medicines, essential medicines, malaria nets, and vaccines, they also gave us extra $2 million to clear the goods. So where is that $2 million and why is the goods not cleared 1.5 years after the fact? I can guarantee that some of these containers, some of these goods may have expired. And the excuse that,
But mosquito nets, I'm not sure will expire. I'm not sure about the medical
The
devices.
dates are good.
and
That
equipment.
one I have to.
The dates are good.
The dates are good.
Well, we have to clear the goods first.
Before we check the dates.
Before you check the dates, how
But
can
the
you
dates
talk
will be
about
written
The
on
the
the
dates?
dates are on the.
No, you have to
containers on
clear
the
the
bill of
goods
lading
first.
and
The
all of
goods
that.
are still stuck in the harbor. Remember that when it's in the harbor and it's in a container, it's also subject to environmental changes. So we need to be clear what we're talking about. These are essential medicines that is going to save Ghanaian lives. Somebody has given you this medicine for free. And not only did they give it to you for free, they included the money to clear the goods. 1.5 years later, you said, no, I've only cleared 14. Even the 14 containers that they cleared, the Minister of Health had a whole party. You know, he bought tents, he put people there, he gave speeches when how many total containers of 283, and he only cleared 14 and had a whole event about it. Pomp and
Maybe that
circumstance.
was symbolic, but I mean,
So
maybe
now-
that was symbolic to show that more clearance will happen. For some reason, it could not materialize. Like Dr. Adoma Hukisi said, it could be a money problem. We are in a difficulty. And so government will have to find money. Perhaps they've not found that money. Thankfully, we did not get to zero. We still have some of the medical supplies in the market. We still have insecticide, mosquito nets. When you go to antenatal and all of that, they will give you, which means
Where?
that we have.
What
we have,
hospital did they give you?
no, I know
mosquito
when you
nets?
go for
The
antenatal,
nets
they give
are
you nets.
available.
Where? What
No,
hospital?
Ghana
Quite
Ghana
a-
Health
quite a number of
Services
them.
has.
No, I just need you to give
No,
me
I mean,
Oh, I'm
the-
giving you.
in his
you know,
hospital, they give
Ghana
nets.
Health Services made a distribution just about 2 weeks ago to major.
Can
you
we
know.
talk about facts?
No.
No, what I'm
It
telling you
is
is-
a fact.
is factual.
It is a fact.
I'm saying that I just came from a hospital where
Which
they
didn't
have,
have.
which no pregnant woman that got out of the hospital got a free mosquito.
No, you
No,
don't.
maybe they
You
had
get
it
it
already.
during the
I'm talking
antenatal
about-
care, not
I am
when
saying that the
you deliver.
antenatal care, they didn't get free mosquito nets.
Maybe-
I am
which
talking
place
about
is
the
this?
They had it
issue
already.
on the
Which
ground.
place is this?
I'm talking
your
about the
constituency,
issues
right?
in my constituency on the ground.
I see.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
My CHIPS compound, I can mention about 3 CHIPS compound that I just left last week. All the ladies that came from antenatal care did not get free mosquito
They did
nets.
not get because they didn't have at the hospital, or they did not get because they had some at home already.
They didn't get because they didn't have some at home already, because the hospital didn't give them some. That
I'll
is
look
where
into
we
this,
are.
but
Okay.
just last week.
So, but that's only last week. So basically, Ghana also launched a malaria national elimination strategy. And one of the strategy mosquito nets is part of that big strategy. So for them to also say that, oh, the containers that are in the harbor are just the mosquito nets, and so they don't really matter. How can you have a strategy and remove one major part of that strategy and try to explain to us that it's not okay? You know, malaria continues to remain a significant public health problem in Ghana. Ghana is among the 15 highest burdened countries in the world for malaria. In 2023, WHO estimated 5.3 million cases, with about 11,557 deaths from malaria.
Estimated deaths. The deaths were
From malaria.
estimated. Yes.
No, these are the true
No,
numbers
but the
from
actual
2023.
the actual number there was 151. I saw that data too. So the death they estimated was 11,300 or so.
11,557.
500, yes. But they said 151 was what they could confirm.
Even COVID was less deaths than this.
Yes.
So malaria is, in terms of what we call the burden of disease for country, in Ghana, it's number one. So if this malaria problem is number one, and you have goods that are sitting in the harbor for 1.5 years, regarding the issue that is your number one burden of disease, what they're doing is unconscionable. These excuses, they don't matter to the average Ghanaian. What we need is our leaders to help us. They said remember how many new taxes they have introduced. Now you're saying that you've introduced all these taxes, yes, you don't have enough money. And even the taxes that they have introduced hasn't gone to any major project. I haven't seen anything. No new hospital, no new regional hospital, no new CHIPS compound, no nothing. So where did all this money go? It's all in the pockets of individuals today. And today we are sitting here and all of a sudden we have a new Minister of Health. So we should all be applauding the new Minister of Health because suddenly he has a magic wand and that magic wand is going to change everything in 6 months.
Well,
So please,
let's be hopeful that the young man comes with a lot of energy.
No, I'm not
and a lot
hopeful
of
at
verve
all.
to change
I'm
the
sad.
situation.
I'm disappointed. I am. I'm like, I don't even know what other words to use. This thing is completely unconscionable. It's a serious leadership crisis, and Ghanaians need to look at this situation and change the government come December 7th, 2024.
I see. That's a good place to end. Let me speak to one person who has been on this matter, Ernest Otin, who is president of the Ghana HIV/AIDS Network, and then Ghana coordinating mechanism of the Global Fund. Ernest, good morning. Welcome to the program. We want to understand how the Global Fund works in other countries. Is it a case that other countries also have the medical supplies shipped to them and they have to clear them themselves? Or how does it happen? And yes, how does it happen, first of all?
Okay, very good morning to you and all our listeners. And thank you very much for the opportunity to actually speak to this matter. So the Global Fund currently works or supports about 146 countries. And they have a common template that they operate in all these countries. Global Fund supports HIV, TB, and malaria, these three diseases. In any country where Global Fund sends commodities, what they normally do is that they add extra money for the clearance on all other handling charges that may occur at the ports, that may also involve, be part of the transportation process and all of that. Global Fund covers all the costs. When it gets to the designated countries and they are cleared on time, none of these issues that we are experiencing in Ghana ever arises because, one, the commodities are paid for. Two, there is extra money to cover all the other charges. The only thing Global Fund does not pay for is taxes. Taxes is what Global Fund does not pay for. Any other costs related to the shipment and up to the last mile distribution, Global Fund pays for it.
I see. So, of course, Dr. Grace, Ayesu Dankwa here alluded to the fact that some $2 million was added to the shipment. You work in the space. Where is that money? How has it been applied, if you know?
Well, that money normally is paid to the Ministry of Health, and it is part of the grant allocation. So it goes to what we call the principal recipient, and the principal recipient of the grant is supposed to use those resources to clear them. So normally it goes to the PR, that's the Ministry of Health.
So we appreciate the work your group, the CSOs, are doing in this to bring the matter to the fore. But we've not quite heard you ask for what that money has been used for. Because if indeed they gave us the supplies for free, and then they also added money for the clearance of same, we should be questioning where that money is. But we've not heard much, on that front. Why so?
Okay, thank you very much. Our preoccupation has been how to get the commodities out first. That has been our preoccupation because of the challenges we have in our health facilities. These commodities have run out of stock and we need them urgently. So our advocacy has been to get them out first. And then after we've gotten them out, we'll now begin to ask the questions. Already, the Global Fund has told the health minister that they are very much interested in understanding what really transpired, because this is the first time this country is experiencing anything like this. So they have already asked the ministry to explain what happened. For us as CSOs, we work with the vulnerable people who are living with these conditions, and the cries they make to us every day is that, please, we need our medicines. We need our medicines. So that has been our preoccupation. Make sure that we get the commodities out first, and then the accountability issues then will follow.
Great, but I'm sorry for pushing this. But if there's money for the clearance and you are asking the containers to be cleared, which is great, the containers are not being cleared, obviously because there's no money. But money has been given for it. So I'm sure in pushing for the containers to be cleared, and you know money has been given for it, and the excuse is that there is no money, you should also maybe simultaneously, or even more importantly, be asking for the whereabouts of that money, because it all comes down to money, and the donor has given the money. So I'm sorry for pushing it too much on you, but we expect that should have also come up. But it hasn't. It's just been a container. And so because it hasn't come up, we have given government the opportunity to make the excuse that there is no money, when indeed money was given. So, you know, if this information was available, like we're hearing now, the pushback would have been that no, you can't make money not being available an excuse, because you're giving money for it. So all you had to do was just to pay and then release the containers. So what has happened to that money? The money should actually take center stage. Will you agree to that?
Well, I mean, I perfectly agree with you. Issues of accountability are very, very important. But like I've said, we just didn't want to get into that arena for now, because, you know, all manner of excuses have been given, and I'll give you one of them. The first excuse that was given was that there were 9 taxes and levies on the commodities. Parliament has given a waiver for 6 of those taxes and levies, and 3 were outstanding. Those 3 that were outstanding were ECOWAS levy, AU levy, and COVID-19 levy. So for a very long time, these were the levies that we were told were outstanding. And as I mentioned before, Global Fund money hasn't paid for taxes. So Global Fund said they will not be in a position to pay for those levies because they don't pay it anyway. Now, government was then arguing that because the AU and ECOWAS levies are international agreements they've signed with ECOWAS and the AU, they needed to find money to pay those ones. And they were also telling us that Parliament cannot waive those ones because these are based on international treaty. So they were going to find the money to pay for those taxes. So that was what they initially told us. But then we said, no, we don't accept it. It is within the power of government to either waive these taxes or find the money quickly and pay. So the Global Fund money that was given was for the clearance and all the other charges that go with this, but taxes and levies were not catered for.
I see. So beyond, I mean, the Global Fund, I wonder what they will be thinking by now. They should be shocked at this. They should be very disappointed as well. What have they been telling you in your engagement with them? What have they been saying?
Well, the Global Fund indeed has been very, very shocked about this. And I've mentioned elsewhere that about 2 weeks ago, we were in Geneva for the World Health Assembly. And as part of the sideline meetings, we met with the senior management of the Global Fund. In that meeting, the Minister of Health, Honorable Dr. Kuboy, he was part of that particular meeting. The Director General of the Ghana Health Service was part. Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, the chairperson and the ranking member were also part. The CEO of NHI, they were all part of that meeting. Now, the Global Fund senior portfolio manager who spoke said, and I'm quoting him, "I've been sitting in this chair for 13 years. Over this period, I've dealt with several countries, including Ghana. I've never seen anything like this. This is the first time this is happening." And he used these words: "This is inexcusable. This is indefensible. Those were two words he used. This is inexcusable. This is indefensible. And the last part, which really, got me like, feel like hiding under the table. He said, Ghana is a country that doesn't lack human resources. And so I cannot understand what is happening in your country. At that point, each and every one of us felt very embarrassed. Ghana is a country that doesn't lack human resources. So I cannot understand what is happening in your country. So the Global Fund clearly is very disappointed, and they've told our health minister that if these commodities are not cleared, they are going to cease funding Ghana. So in response, the minister then apologized for the situation and explained that he is very new in the seat and they should give him up to end of June. He will ensure that the commodities will be cleared. Well, the Global Fund also explained that they are in country because of the poor and vulnerable, and they don't want the actions and inactions of political actors to affect that particular mandate. So if indeed the minister can assure them that they will clear the commodities by end of June, then relations will normalize. But for now, they are very, very uncomfortable because they also have to explain to their donors what is happening in Ghana. And the man said that by the end of this month, they have a meeting, a board meeting, and they have run out of excuses explaining, because nobody seems to understand what is going on in the country, that the commodities have been given to you free of charge, your people need it, but for whatever reason, they are failing to clear them. So the Global Fund is not happy at this point.
I see. Quite interesting. So just hang in there for me. Doc Adomako Kisi, because there are two docs here. Doc Adomako Kisi, this is not good. It's embarrassing. I didn't even know that the Global Fund added money to the shipment. So where is the money? I mean, where did the money go? And we've now released 7.4 million cedis. They said they gave us 2 million. 7.2 million is just like $500,000 because now the dollar is around 15 cedis. So 7.4 is around $500,000. What's happening?
Well, admittedly, based on what the fund manager said, I think it's unacceptable. I would admit to that. But out of all of this, one thing that is quite clear was the tax exemption bit, which I think we may have dropped the ball on, because you can't clear without attending to the tax bit. And I've always been of the opinion that we need to get the manifesto and work on tax exemptions before things even hit the shores of our country. And you know, when it comes to tax exemptions, we even have a few outstanding ones which have become a huge deal for some businesses. And I think that we need, as a nation, to be mindful and careful about how we manage our tax exemptions. And I can see how that may have played a very huge role. And personally, I've experienced it where you get goods from foreign countries, especially the US, and getting exemption for something that you're going to use for the community to benefit can become a huge mind-boggling exercise, because not all exemptions necessarily even have to go to Parliament. The Ministry of Finance ought to have a desk that attends to this. And I think, I mean, in considering all of this, I know there are military equipment that enter this country at ease, without all these tax hurdles and things like that. And may I say that our security services, their salaries and things like that go through, and healthcare is rather second to them in terms of paying doctors and nurses. And along the line, we might have to look at this carefully, where healthcare providers are also given that same equal level as we give to military, police, and all these other services. Because I know many huge things have come into this country because they were military. They didn't have some of these tax exemption issues and things like that. And some level of seriousness needs to be afforded to health-related things and tax exemptions. You know, some of the hospitals that are being built, the equipment's coming for them. You know, as we speak, are also another hurdle ahead of us. And out of all of this, I think that between the Ministry of Health and Finance, there has to be not necessarily another bureaucratic thing, but a bureau that would handle strictly the clearance of things that are for health, clearance of things that are for prevention, of you know, like vaccines and things like that, so that we don't go through these repeated challenges of delays in clearance. And let me also add that, listen, not to find reason or excuse, but logistics about a year ago were bad for many countries, and you know, not to add to it, but I think
the logistics that arrived the things had arrived in the country.
I understand.
So that's your internal
Th- th- I mean, I'm
agency
just,
should just
yeah,
split
yeah.
among themselves. I need to take a break. Let me take a break.
That's fine.
Let me,
yeah.
let me take a break. So this is a big issue. We're on 97.3 City FM. We'll take a short break. When we return, we will conclude on this matter of the locked up medical supplies. And then we'll go to another important matter, which has to do with the environment and, again, political will to do the right thing. The matter of the Amenfi East constituency MPP parliamentary candidate who more or less incited or was inciting young people to go after the military and the police if they attempted to stop them from an illegality. You get what I'm saying? We'll be right back. Hi, you're welcome back to The Big Issue, live on 97.3 City FM and on ChannelOne TV. Very big welcome to our TV viewers. My name is Selorm Adonoo. This is your platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation, where we deal with the matters dispassionately and try to find solutions to them. Today we're dealing with three issues. The first one, which we're almost done with, is on the locked up medical supplies at the port. Some 283 containers of mosquito nets, pharmaceuticals, TB medication, medical devices and equipment have been locked up at the Tema port for about a year and over, because government has not been able to clear them. And we are learning this morning that the Global Fund, which donated the items, not only donated the items or shipped the items to the country, they also added money for its clearance. The question is, where is that money? What has happened to it? Why was it not used for this purpose? Now, people need the mosquito nets. We don't even know the state of those or condition of those medical supplies. They've been left at the mercy of the weather for the past 1 year and over. Global Fund is unhappy. They will have to meet and give, you know, explain things to their board. They don't know why it's happening. So we have been told by Ernest Ochin that Global Fund is shocked and disappointed at this. They have expressed same to our authorities when they met recently, and all of that. The society, you know, for the Global Fund, the CSOs in Ghana have threatened to demonstrate on the 25th June. I'll ask Ernest whether that's still on, or given the assurances, they'll put that on ice for a while. And so they also wrote to the president complaining about this. They wrote to the president on the 11th of June. On the 13th of June, 2 days later, we saw the statement from the Ministry of Health saying that some money has been allocated for the clearance of same. Will the demonstration still happen? We do not know. That is what we are discussing here. My guests this morning, Dr. Dixon Adumakukisi Anya Soutu, Member of Parliament, Dr. Grace Ayensu Dankwa, NDC parliamentary candidate for Escado Ketan in the Western region, Ernest Ochin, President of the Ghana HIV/AIDS Network and Ghana Coordinating Mechanism of the Global Fund, and Franklin Kuju, who is not spoken yet, of Imani Africa. These are my guests this morning. Dr. Kisi was just Kisi Adumaku Kisi. Yours is not a compound name, right?
Mine is not.
Dr. Kisi was just making a point about his understanding of how the things happen. He said it's unacceptable etc. Doctor, I used to, Dakwa, let me come to you. So we've heard the explanation from Ernest Sochin of the coordinating mechanism of the Global Fund. It does appear that, well, now some action is being taken, even though it's belated. Shouldn't we be not happy, but at least we've seen some action? Shouldn't we be hoping that in the 2 weeks we've given to ourselves, at least from the ministry's point of view, this matter would have been cleared, and that would be the end of this, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. We've made some progress at least.
Thank you, but why must we accept mediocrity?
No, it's happened already. We've berated them, we've condemned them, we've said it's unacceptable, it shouldn't happen. Now they said money's been released, at least from what we see, and then they say in 2 weeks everything should be out of the place.
I don't accept mediocrity, number one. Number two, the goods are still, as we speak today at the harbor, still at the mercy of, you see how it's been raining, and you see the weather lately. So the goods are still there. Saying that they release it 2 weeks is not good enough. The health minister, when he came back from Geneva, should have released it the next day.
But it took money. Now
They have already given them the money.
The money has now been released.
The money was given to them a year and a half ago. The money even came before the goods arrived.
The money came before the goods.
The money came before the goods arrived. That is the money for the clearance. And the goods are free. So this whole thing about taxes, this is not the first time Global Fund has sent goods to Ghana. In the President Mahama's time, they were sending goods all the time. The issue was that we used to pay the taxes, and they are tax exempt. This is a tax exempt. There's a memorandum of understanding.
But they said
Government of Ghana, Global Fund.
ECOWAS tax, AU tax, and those ones, COVID-19, those ones, treaties and things. So.
No, but this is a tax exempt organization that is giving you essential medicines that is going to save the lives of your people. So the tax exemption thing was never an issue. This is not the first time. And that is why I understand the head of the Global Fund. It looks like from this meeting, he actually was very blunt. He told them how he felt, and he was rather disappointed. And he also said that this is not the first, Ghana doesn't, according to Ernest, he said Ghana doesn't have an issue with human resources. So even the Global Fund managers or the head of Global Fund is telling them that there's something fundamentally wrong with this
What do you
picture.
think is wrong?
Somebody has chopped the money. The $2 million came. Somebody took the money and chopped it. This is just, it's plain.
We don't know that.
We can speak all the English and have all the nuances of what happened about this issue. Somebody took that $2 million and chopped it. So all the excuse they're giving to Ernest is the taxes, is COVID-19, is this person, a new health minister is coming. So all of a sudden the Ministry of Health is not a continuum. All of a sudden somebody appears and the earth opened and Okoboy arrived and suddenly he's like the next best thing to slice bread. No, it's a continuum. We had a minister before Okoboy came. Okoboy has been in the ministry before. So it's not even something new. It's like you're taking old goods and selling it to us like this is new goods. Okoboy is not a new person.
But he wasn't there when the goods arrived, I think.
But I'm saying
and
that
he had no power. So now he has a power. So why don't we say, okay, now that you have the power, let's see what you can do. He has promised to deliver in 2 weeks.
It's almost inexcusable. This is not a new person that arrived from Mars or he arrived from Venus, right? He is that person who has also been in the ministry before, and prior to that, he wasn't here at NIH or something.
NHIS.
Yeah, NHIS.
Which is a different organization.
Yeah, so what is the difference? This guy is not some new guy that is going to come.
But he has the power now.
He doesn't. If he did, he would have released.
Now he has a steer. Now he has a steer.
Please don't start with the steer thing.
No, he has a steer actually. He was a mate. Now he has a steer.
I don't want to make a joke about it because it's just rather tragic. That one is also another tragic discussion. So I'm not even going to go there. I'll save that one for. You just made me lose my train of
I'm sorry. You said it's inexcusable.
More fast here, mommy. More fast here,
yeah, no, he has a steer.
Like my 2-year-old child going there. More fast here.
He said he want to go there. He said he want to go there.
I want to go there.
One other thing, though.
So, I'm to conclude. I'm agreeing with the global health, the head of the global health, and all fund, and also agreeing with Ernest and all the CSOs and the minority in parliament, my NDC party hierarchy, that this thing is rather, it's unprecedented, it is irresponsible, it is inexcusable, it is indefensible, and it is just so bad. It makes Ghana look bad. It doesn't augur well for the country. And more importantly, again, I want to bring it back to the real issues at hand, is the lives that are at stake for this bad, really, really bad, awful mistake. Okoboy does not have the magic wand. Okoboy is just a continuum of a really bad system that has already been said before. In 6 months, Okoboy is not going to change anything. This, I'll bring it in 1 month. Let's mark it on the wall. In the end of, we are on already in June 15th. He's not going to clear these goods in the next 2 weeks. You know it's not going to happen. He said that before they did the 14 containers, they said they were going to clear the goods, right?
But the money,
and we all had to wait. The money has come. Let's go and clear the goods. They only went to clear 14. Now, fast forward, we are now another month later. It's only what they're doing is to buy time because they don't have the money. Somebody chopped the money. So like Enna said, we need to find...
You be calling for us to know where the money is? I mean, investigate why you were giving money, but you haven't been able to clear it. Shouldn't that be the focus? In the NDC, I mean, you guys, I've never even heard you talk about this as a party
the minority,
and call for where the money is.
The minority in parliament has discussed it, but obviously, I mean, you know how the media is kind of slanted a little
media
bit.
Is not.
So they're not listening to us.
Here you are having all the time to say all you want to say.
The media is a little bit slanted, so they're not listening to us. But the issue on the ground is that the minority has discussed it. Somebody chopped the money, so that money is not available, and so they cannot find the money to clear. Okoboy does not have the magic wand. Okoboy is not the one who's going to clear the goods.
Let's wish him well. So
that I wish him well because of the lives at stake, not him as the individual or the ministry as an, as an entity. Well. I'm wishing well because it has real lives at stake. People have suffered based on this. TB cases, let me tell you, the incidence of TB cases in Ghana is 143 to 100,000 people. In 2023, we had 19,000 TB cases, and annually we are detecting 44,000 TB cases.
But we've not run out of
TB
medication.
is also responsible for 5% of total deaths in Ghana annually.
But we've not run out of medication.
Even the surveillance thing has been affected. The medicines are not there, and go to the TB sections.
But the GHS says that we have some medicine, so we're not zero.
No,
but have we had TB patients say they could not get medicine?
Yes, that is the issue at hand. Do you want to go to the TB, infectious disease places?
Why not? You know, we've not been told that they've run out of medicine. At least the GHS tells us that there is medicine.
But
one key thing,
it's
though,
not the GHS that we have to listen to. We can, as a media house, we can go to the infectious disease
we do that.
and talk to the people there. The people on the ground are not receiving the medicines.
Very well.
All the people in charge of TB are complaining.
Great.
The CSOs responsible for TB is complaining. So we are having a problem.
You drop that word. Dr. Dixon, I'll drop the word.
One key thing out of all of this, though, is that the bigger question is, why are we not producing these nets in this country? And I really think that, in all seriousness, as a nation, that should be what we should be doing, because we're at an endemic area. We're moving to end malaria, fine, but in as much as we're trying to do that, I think that as a nation, we need to ask ourselves that big question, that why must Oyibo bring us nets when it's something that we ought to be producing locally?
Well, we've asked that question many times, but we've not had the answers.
And Doc,
I think it's a rhetorical question he's asking.
Try to. I'm only making a point here. I come as MPP.
You're not making a political point.
But this is not politics. We're not doing everything
nation building.
Political. Yeah. So this is because Mahama received nets, the MPP has received nets. So we're both guilty here as parties. But I'm making a key point out of all of this, that where we should be going is preparing ourselves so that we can be producers of these nets in this country, and then maybe be the one distributing to other
to give
African.
real meaning to Ghana beyond aid.
That is.
But
that
it
is
does
just my-
appear that the aid itself, we are not able to manage it.
Right. No,
Well,
but
that's what I'm asking. I mean, we need to be looking forward.
And so what then is a problem?
Yeah.
Because like the Global Fund said, from what we've heard from Ernest, we do not lack the human resource. So what's the problem?
We, as a nation, may need to look at structuring a very solid business arrangement with the producer, so that they would have a local production here, so that even this import issue would be a thing of the past. So I'm only, and what I'm asking for applies to even the likes of vaccination, which at least, let me commend our president for, creating a path to producing some vaccines in this country.
and the vaccine center at cantonments.
That's what I'm saying, that it's a path that we should commend. I mean, listen, if it's good, you ought to say it. I mean, the fact remains.
Just make your point. Yeah.
So in concluding, I am of the opinion that, in as much as we are consuming some of these things from, other nations, our endemic problems, we need to find ways and means to produce them in country. And as you well know, Doc, the tuberculosis medications have been available, tried and tested for so many years. And I think that it will be appropriate that we,
But
as
now
Africans,
we start producing
should.
ours.
So-
Great. I
So-
wanted to
so
wrap up with
let me-
Ernest, but
yeah,
I give you
but
10
let me
seconds.
quickly,
10 seconds, yeah.
with all due respect, I also want to know that I'm not making this political.
Sure.
Because as a physician, I do care about the lives at stake, and
Sure.
that is why in the beginning I made us aware that this issue is not about these numbers and it's not about a political
It's about
show.
the people.
It's about the people and whose lives have been impacted. So I want to go back there. But this is the same government that came to tell us that they were moving away from taxation to production. When Baumia was bragging about his economic prowess, he was the quote-unquote economic whiskey, right? So what happened if you are 7 years, we have given you the country to bring us the production. 8 years down the line, you are telling us
Some
that
production-
now
Global disruptions.
we should have done,
Global
we should have
productions
gone
have
from
happened.
taxation
Global
to
disruptions
production. You were the one who came to tell us, let's go from taxation to production.
Very well.
So we're going to produce mosquito nets in Ghana. 8 years down the fact, you're still telling us that, oh, by the way, he's an honorable minister, right? He's an honorable member of parliament, honorable member of parliament, right? So why wasn't he in the parliament telling them that when Baumia came to tell us, let's move from taxation to production, why didn't he insist that production of mosquito nets have happened? 8 years down the line, now you're coming to remind us that we should have gone into production.
No, it's something Ghanaians we must be thinking about.
His
And
government said they would do that for us and he
you want
didn't do
you
it.
want to come to power. It's something you should
And
be
now
thinking
they're
about
even
as well.
taxing people who are giving us things for free
Very well. Ernest,
and chopping our money.
great. Ernest, what's the next move? I mean, you wrote to the president. We've seen some response from the health ministry. What happens on June 25? Will you await the outcome of end of month, the 2 weeks to see if it's cleared before you go on your demonstration, or your demonstration occurs or happens, irrespective of the promises? What happens next?
Okay, thank you very much. But I hope I can get a minute or two to
Sure.
address one critical issue.
Sure.
So this has to do with the bed nets. I have heard some commentary suggesting that there are just too many of them. The Global Fund is dumping the bed nets on us. We don't need them, and so on and so forth. So let me explain that one, Global Fund doesn't procure for us anything we ourselves have not asked for. So the bed nets that we have at the ports were nets that we ourselves quantified and presented to the Global Fund, and for which reason the Global Fund purchased for us. That's the first point. The second point is that Ghana, we do mass bed net distribution every 3 years. Every 3 years, that's when we do this mass bed net distribution. So this net that we procured last year, they were supposed to have been distributed in March this year. And after this distribution, we will not distribute next year. We will not do that in 2026. The next time we will do that will be 2027. This is because the lifespan of the bed nets is 3 to 4 years. But we don't wait for the 4 years. So every 3 years, we give out new bed nets. So the quantities that seem large, this is meant to last us for a 3-year period. Beyond what we give out during the mass distribution, there is some quantity that is also given to schools. And these schools then give them to children in primary school so that they can take them home where they are missed when the household distribution takes place. Their parents can then use it for them. Then we reserve a certain quantity at the health facilities where we give to pregnant women and children under 5 when they come to the health facilities. So the quantities we are seeing, it's supposed to last us for 3 years. It's not something that is supposed to have been used over just a 1-year period. Now, as it stands now, because of the delay, we've missed our timelines. Normally, the registration of households takes place January, February. That's when that takes place. And then by March, the distributions are done in preparation for the rainy season, because that's where we have high cases of malaria. So we have now missed the deadlines because the containers are still at the port. And it's so sad that some people are trying to downplay the usefulness of mosquito nets. You will see that beyond all these distributions that we do, there are persons we call internally displaced persons. These are persons who are homeless. And so the streets, they sleep in the open, in the streets, at marketplaces, at ghettos, and all of that. Without any protection, these mosquito nets help them to prevent mosquito bites that lead to malaria cases. So the mosquito nets are very, very important. And they are part of the mix of strategies that we have drawn up as a country to eliminate malaria. So people should not attempt to downplay the importance of these bed nets. The second issue has to do with the TB medicines. I can tell you on good authority that as we speak now, we have almost run out of stock. So persons who were getting monthly supplies of these medicines are now getting weekly supplies. So it is true that we were almost out of stock of this. But as of this morning, the TB program has confirmed that the containers with the TB medicines have been taken to the warehouse and they are getting ready to take them to the regions. They can also confirm that artesunate injection and other ACTs that were stuck at the port have also been removed. And then starting from Monday, they will start taking them to the facilities. The other ones, we are told that in 2 weeks' time maximum, they will all be out.
So the TB medication and all of that is part of the 283 containers. What we were just told 2 days ago, right?
Exactly so.
Great.
And it's very sad. It's very sad. When we were, saying that these commodities contain these medicines, the public relations units of the Ministry of Health was telling us that no, there are no medicines in there. It's very, 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 very pathetic.
Great.
Why such a thing will happen? Now to your question.
Yes.
So we are going ahead to present a petition to the president. Because what we are saying is that whether the commodities are cleared or not, this should never happen again.
Great.
We are dealing with persons living with HIV. I know people, I work with people who have been on medication for the last 10, 15, 20 years. Now, if you keep these medicines in the pot for 1 year and don't clear them, you bring them trauma, because this is their source of existence. Without these medications, they are going to lose their lives.
Very well.
So for their sake, we will still go ahead and present our petition to the president. And we say we want concrete actions. We are very grateful to the Minister of Health for the intervention. But then, this should never happen again. We want policies, we want programs, we want frameworks, we want things to be drawn up so that we all follow them going forward. So 25th June will happen.
Very well. Thanks so much. Ernest Ochin, President of the Ghana HIV/AIDS Network, GHANET, and Ghana Coordinating Mechanism for the Global Fund. Thanks so much for your time this morning. We are grateful for your insights. Thanks so much. Now, let me take your few seconds view on something we've seen this week, also on the health, in the health sector, because you guys are doctors. So I think, we saw a story that the guys at the Winneba Trauma Hospital dumped, allegedly, a patient who couldn't pay her bills or so in a bush, and the patient died. A few things have happened. The Ghana Health Service says they've suspended the medical director for the hospital to allow for unimpeded investigations. The ministry, or the Minister for Health, Okobo again, issued a statement calling for swift action in terms of the investigation. It's giving them 30 days to do so, and all of that. You as doctors, well, I mean, how could such a thing happen, and how did it hit you? Dr. Dumaku, let me start with you.
I thought it was ladies first, but you keep starting.
Yeah, I
with
know
me.
you keep starting. With me.
Oh, so okay.
It's not fair.
Oh, really?
Right. Gender balance.
Okay,
so I
so that-
understand.
okay, that's-
now, what a man can do, a woman can do. And what a woman can do, a man can do.
What a man can do, a woman can do better.
Okay.
There's an unfortunate thing. There's a patient charter in this country, which talks about the rights of patients, which also talks about the responsibility of patients and their family. Quite clearly, it was not adhered to. Quite clearly, because in it is how you attend to patients, even who cannot afford. And let me also add that when it comes to patient responsibility, we as clinicians need to appreciate the fact that sometimes some people even have mental disorders and cannot even, as it is, reason and function like a normal person. And I always say this in my hospital, that when people come to your hospital, they're not in a bank. We go to bank expecting to withdraw cash. But when you go to a hospital, it is because you're not well, and it actually has a toll on the family, regardless of the inability of them to either find who that person's family was and all the other things about it. The patient charter needs to be adhered to. And I think that there was a break in that, and at worst, they should have transferred to maybe police hospital, where there are a lot of unknowns sometimes, who police then will investigate and try and reach out to their families. So this is very unfortunate, and in all of this too, I need to add that we don't know the underlying health condition of this patient, because I cannot host a chicken pox patient. I cannot host certain conditions like even measles on my children's
Because
ward.
they are contagious.
Because they are contagious. So I cannot, as at this moment,
Ascertain what the condition was.
ascertain what the underlying
But
condition.
what you're condemning is that they shouldn't have left the patient.
It's not
like
done,
that. And
because
why,
of our patient charter.
Why the bush? Of course, we don't know the full facts yet. But why do you take the person to the bush? I mean, doctor, your view.
What facts do you need?
No, because when I read
seriously?
the GHS statement, so that we deal with official things, right? When I read the GHS statement, they said that the medical director admitted to it, only that some of the facts as they knew before were different. So we don't know. That's what they're investigating. The facts were bare, without controversy, without issue. I'm not sure so much will be placed on investigation. So that's why we say allegedly. So the person was left in the bush. And for my mind, I wonder why the person should be taken to the bush. Maybe there's something we need to clear up there.
We have a patient charter, and as physicians, at least, I schooled in the US, and we swear to the Hippocratic Oath that first you do no harm, right? That you use all your faculties, sight, hand, everything, to your best of your abilities to do the best for everybody. remember that when people come to us, they come to us at their most vulnerable. Like, nobody wants to go to a doctor until there's a problem. And so as somebody, it's almost like a calling. You know, it's almost like maybe a religious, a priest or something. When people come to you at the most vulnerable, right? So there has to be, as a physician or as a hospital, or as even the people managing the hospital, there has to be maybe an extra level of empathy for people. Clearly, this woman apparently was an accident, at least from what I know, was a motor vehicle accident. She ended up there, they couldn't find the family. And apparently she's maybe senile because apparently they said she was something she was doing in the hospital. There is no reason,
there's no excuse.
No excuse in medicine or in surgery. I'm a surgeon, right? I'm a trauma and reconstructive surgeon. There is something called a never event. You know, I'll give an example of a never event. A never event is when I go to theater and I leave a sponge in a patient's body and I sew it up. And 2 weeks later, you can't find it. I mean, the patient comes back and there's a sponge. That is an event that should never happen under any circumstance.
Or you amputate the wrong leg.
Well, I don't want to go that far because those are events that should never under any circumstance happen. This event is one of them. A never event should never happen, even in the poorest country, in the poorest part of the country, and not if anywhere. This event, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I'm still traumatized because I can't see under any circumstance, even if this woman couldn't pay, even if she was walking around the hospital insulting everybody, even if she was pushing people and beating people.
You don't take her to the bush.
Don't take her to the bush. Why
you don't take her outside. You don't know about it.
Why do you even take a whole person in the hospital?
We need to
pick them up and drop them somewhere.
Great.
Imagine if this was your family member, or imagine if this is somebody you know.
So the two of you have on certain terms condemned this, and we hope that the investigations are conducted quickly. 30 days, I'm sure, is a long time.
But sometimes you can refer a patient and they don't go.
Well.
So
I mean,
them and put them in the bush.
you know, like I said, I mean, we don't know it all.
Great.
But
We hope that the investigations
there should be
conclude
no
quickly.
reason. There's no reason on this face of the earth that something like that should happen.
Now, let's move on to the next matter.
Never.
The MPP parliamentary candidate for Amenfi East, Ernest Frimpong, he was arrested and subsequently granted bail by the Takwa Police Command in the Western Region. This follows a viral video in which Mr. Frimpong was captured, urging minors to attack police officers and soldiers who extort money from them. Mr. Frimpong had earlier refuted allegations that he and the Western Regional Minister, Kobnotri, documents have endorsed illegal mining and encouraged minors to resist military personnel. He said his words were taken out of context from the 2-hour engagement with artisanal small-scale miners. Now let's listen to what the Municipal Chief Executive for the Wasa Amenfi East area, Frederick Crunchy, said on the matter. Then we come back and then speak to our guests, and I'll introduce some more guests.
Oh yes. So my patrol or my patrol and the Akase authority on the aid you must have mature. Ya Jeffrey is in your whole year in the moment, or also here in the you know, chill. I said, but the women is a woman a Ghana for. And Bravo, we are mobile, so here you make it. Or no, I want to move on to a poor woman. The moon is as a seal to be trapped. More than 2 3 months as a seal to bed in the trap. Meaning, sight, all the police for Kenya or Malaysia, you acquire a call, plan, be or one, and the police will do check, will be out of you. But the open you out, or what be out about a week of about 3, 4, 5. When you have Mama police, or when you want me, I might your mocha. When you have Master Jenny, or when you want me, I might your mocha. And if you also got an idea, I want to go to some. A perform action now. Hey, to go, there will be better of the police. Baby, what do you go? What do you see? And the answer, man. Picture me a cacaka. And Tina, on what you do list. Emma Mutre with Dina number. Nina Mutre number on the critique platform. Platform and medals, the MC medals, the regional minister with the labor tissue.
All right, so that's the gentleman, PC for Amenfi East, Ernest Frimpong, speaking to some galamseyers. And yes, widely condemned. He said he was taken out of context. I'm not sure what that means. He said it was a 2-hour conversation. Just 3 minutes have been taken. And said he was taken out of context. So these were young people, illegal miners. He had gathered with the regional minister and MC.
Small-scale miners.
Well, small-scale miners. Others have said illegal miners. But nobody chases small-scale miners. Small-scale miners are legal.
They are licensed.
They are licensed, they are legal. So police will not go chase small-scale miners who are legal. So that's what he is saying. And the guys were clapping that the power to, nobody has said small-scale miners should be arrested. They said the power to arrest them is being taken away from the soldiers and the police. I'm not sure in this country we arrest small-scale miners because it is legitimate work. So that's his word, that they are small-scale miners. But when you put everything together now, if you contextualize it, now I'm using the context properly, not how he used it. If you contextualize it, they are illegal miners. And that is against the law. They are galamseyers. So that's what he's saying, that you fight them too. If I'm doing my legitimate business, nobody goes around arresting. You know, so that's what it is. I don't know what you think about this. Let me start with the lady now. Let me start with you, Dr. Grace. I sit down. This is in your region. Your region has been one affected so much by illegal mining. And I don't know, and you are running for an election, and I know Galamsey is a major one in the area. We heard in the last election that because of the government's fight against Galamsey, it became difficult. They couldn't win a lot of the seats that they lost. So maybe now they want to recoup or they want to regain ground. So all of these are happening. I don't know what you think. You are in the area. How bad is the situation, and what do you make of this?
Again, as the first topic, I'm still traumatized to see the heads of the region. You know, the regional minister was right behind him, smiling and almost applauding this comment. The comment was inexcusable, and he should have never said that. Remember that our military and our security forces are already overwhelmed. In terms of our national security, is at stake based on a number of factors like severe youth unemployment, etc., etc. So to see that a whole parliamentary candidate is saying this about the security forces, it's very bad. Remember, we had already gone through Major Mahama. Remember that incident where a military person was beaten, literally beaten and stoned to death. And this was also caught on camera. So what exactly is he saying? Is he saying that now they should take another military guy and stone him to death? You saw shortly after, I was just showing you a video before, is another military guy who was actually knifed or something, and both hands are now, he has to be rushed to the hospital. So what he's saying or what he's doing apparently is it's very sad, and it's not good for the security of the country. In the Western region, illegal mining is becoming one of our biggest problems in the sense that the destruction of our waters. And as a health professional, I always tend to look at the health implications of this mining. Ghana Water has also told us that back in the day, if let's say 1 bucket of water, they were using 1 cup of solution to wash it. Now they are using 10 times to wash the same amount of water because of the extreme pollution of the water. So illegal mining is affecting us in the Western region. And unfortunately, like you saw there, the people who are leading this thing are the political actors, right? Government appointees. Even the person that I'm running against is seen on camera taking bribe for illegal mining.
You're running against
I don't remember
Charles
his
Bisu?
name, yeah.
You don't remember the name of your opponent?
No.
Really?
He was caught on tape, like, you know, on camera in Anas's video taking bribe from the interministerial committee. The only government appointee that has been seen taking bribe, and you know, when you take, he actually counted the bribe on camera.
So is that an issue in your election? Is that an issue?
It is an issue because these are the people that
You are making it an issue.
No, I didn't make it an issue. The video didn't come from me, but these are the people. We are suffering the environmental.
I'm sure everybody in the constituency has that video now.
We are suffering the environmental effects of this illegal mining. All of our waterways have been polluted. Today, when you go to the hospitals, what we're seeing more is gastrointestinal problems like GI, gastrointestinal problems, people with diarrhea and things like that, and it's all directly related to our water. Currently, in the Western region, we're even rationing water. I mean, my taps haven't flowed for maybe the last 3 or 4 days, and it just goes on and off. So most of the time, I don't even expect to turn on the tap and see water. And it's not because we don't have the water, but it's getting increasingly more difficult to clean the same amount of water because they're polluting the water with mercury because they're using mercury powder or mercury liquid to wash the soil to get the gold out. So now it's ending up in our water. Arsenic is there and cyanide is in the water. So even in the Western region and in the towns, in the CHIPS compounds around the mining areas, we're seeing a lot of childhood, like infant mortality based on that, and also deformities. You know, so this thing has a huge environmental impact as well as health impact on those of us in the Western region. And it would have been nice to see the leaders, our regional minister and the PC, really looking at the issue on a holistic manner and also not trying to endanger the lives of our security agencies. We need the security agencies to protect us. The role the security agencies play are very important and vital to Ghana and to the well-being of the country. So to put them at risk, I think one is unconscionable, and two, it should never happen again. Just like this woman, and just like the medicine, the Global Fund medicines that are stuck. Increasingly, what I see, and again, I'm not even trying to be political, but let's call a spade, is a serious lack of leadership. Is a serious leadership crisis. The leaders don't take responsibility. It looks like they've abandoned the ship. You know, they came and they bragged and they told us all kinds of things, you know. Even those of us who are not politically inclined, some regular people or swing voters believed some of the stuff they said, you know, so they voted them into power. 8 years down the line, it appears that there's no pengini nifi. You understand? Nobody takes responsibility. In the next one, it's like, oh, Okoboy has come. The other guy is gone, but all of a sudden, Okoboy is going to fix it in 3 months. In the other one, regional minister is sitting there. Let's kill or let's maim security forces. In this one, the money is missing for the Global Fund. In this one, the woman has been dropped in the bush from a hospital. An ambulance stopped at the bush and dropped a patient in the bush and left. And then she was bitten by snakes and mosquitoes and rain.
The snakes and mosquitoes are your own additions?
Yes, and she was like, but imagine in the bush. And then scorpions and whatever else animals were there. They bit this woman. And imagine what suffering this poor woman went through before she died. Then it rained, and so she was in the puddle. And then the water was entering her ears and nose and everything else. That is what happened. That is the reality of this woman's life.
Snakes didn't bite
so
him.
She
Scorpions
died
didn't bite him.
Miserably. She died unconscious. I mean, it should never happen. But it's almost as if one day, one scandal, or every other 1 hour, one scandal. So for me, what I see, overall picture, is that there's total lack of leadership. The leaders have left the barn. The barn is opened. Everybody can do whatever they want. Anybody can say whatever they want. And then now after they do it, then we kind of backtrack and we're trying to find excuses when we know that the issue on the ground is a total lack of leadership. Baumia, who came to tell us that he was the economic guru, the one who was going to fix all of Ghana's problems. John Mahama is incompetent. He is the one in charge today. Now today, look, the barn is opened. Everybody does what they want. Yes. But you saw the political actors in there. This thing wasn't said by a regular person.
But Bawumia
so
wasn't
it
there.
goes back to politics. But point I'm trying to say that the buck stops up there.
So,
the
yeah,
buck
but
stops in
Bawumia is
Bawumia and
Nanado, not Bawumia.
Bawumia is a mate to Akufo-Addo. He told
So-
us he was the driver's mate.
Yeah,
Me,
so
I didn't
Akufo-Addo
say
takes
it.
the decision.
Yeah, but the mate also can tell the driver that, oh, driver.
But the driver could decide
the
to listen or not.
Yeah, there's a puddle, the driver, move left, move right. The mate also has a responsibility.
Yes.
So all I'm saying is that there's a lack of accountability and the acceptance of responsibility at the top.
But would-
and that
won't
is
you
where
admit-
our current problems lie.
Won't you
So
admit that-
everything we have talked about today is
Won't you-
about leadership.
Won't you
crisis.
admit that, yes, leadership has made some work, some effort, to the extent that they pay dearly for what they did in 2020. The president said he was putting his presidency on the line. He
What
did
happened to
appear
that?
to have done that. He lost seats in that region or in those areas. That is enough consequence for somebody's commitment to a cause. You won't
But
agree?
I feel like you're making excuses. And there's no
No,
reason
no,
you
these
should
are
say
facts.
that. No, but there's no reason you should say that the security forces should be at risk. I mean, there's no reason. You can still, I'm sure there's other ways you can placate your people and get back your votes, right? But you can't also put someone else's life at risk. We all saw Major Mahama's issue. Look at how miserably and how tragic and how sad a whole military person, young man, died. So it's unconscionable. There's no excuse.
I see.
And not
All right.
especially for votes do you even do that. That is even worse. I mean, that excuse for me is worse than even any other excuse. It shouldn't have happened. Our security forces are very important. We need them. No country, no democracy can thrive without a good security force that is respected, that people look up to, and that people will stand for. So in this case, I stand with the military, I stand with the police, and I stand with the security forces. This should have never happened. It was unconscionable what this MP and then the PC and the regional minister, what they did was unconscionable.
Great. So that's Dr. Grace Ayesu Dankwa, NDC parliamentary candidate for Eskado Kitan. Of course, on this segment of the program as well is Dr. Dickson Adumakukisi, Anyaso Utum MP. We have Dr. John Osai Kwapong, who is a researcher, policy analyst with CDD. He joins us on Zoom. Let me take his view, then I'll come to Dr. Dickson Adumakukisi to put it all in context for us, since he's the man in the party.
Tell him I said hi. He's a good friend.
Okay, so he'll come on. All right, Doc Osai Kwapong, good morning. Welcome to the program. I know you've been following this fight about Galamsey, etc. And I don't know what you think, whether we are losing steam, whether we've lost it, whether there's any hope at all. I want you to deal with that for me and also put in context for me, or tell us what you think about the action of the young man, whether what he was saying, we have taken it out of context, like he tries to explain in a statement he issued, soon after the video became viral. Put all of that together for us, and kindly unmute while you talk to us.
Sure. All right. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone else. Special greetings to Dr. Ayesu Dankwa. Tell her to look for
She
me.
said you are a good friend.
Yeah, if I start off with the comments, whether we are taking it out of context or not, at least we heard what we heard, and reasonable minds can conclude that these comments were very unfortunate comments to have been made, especially for me, in my opinion, especially coming from an aspiring member of parliament, right? Someone that, should they get elected into parliament, will be responsible for making laws that governs the country across all manner of areas and all manner of activities. I think it wasn't in the best, it was very distasteful, if I may say that. I'm glad that he was invited to come and explain why he said what he said, and hopefully everything will be clarified. And I mean, what if there are consequences for some of the things that he said? I think it's only right that he faces those consequences, whether it's as a matter of law or even as a matter of politics, right? That I would hope that these, these are not the comments, the behaviors that we reward in terms of, electing to parliament. But you also situate it within the broader context of this fight against Galamsey. And one of the things that I also asked myself was, well, it's an election year. There seems to be this narrative that has been repeated over and over and over again, that particularly for the ruling party, some of their actions against the small-scale mining industry, particularly Galamsey, right? So the ban on small-scale mining, as they were trying to come up with, a proper framework to deal with the issue of Galamsey, the seizing, burning of excavators, and of course, some of the stories that came out from Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. There's been this narrative after the 2020 election that some way, somehow, some of those efforts and some of those activities around Galamsey hurt the ruling party and accounts for why they lost several of those seats that they lost in parliament. So it feels like because of that narrative, as we go into 2024, there seems to be this overly political sensitivity to how you treat the issue of Galamsey and how you what kind of promises or what kind of things you say in terms of Galamsey. And, the last thing you want to do is to say anything about this issue that in the minds of the candidate, that some way, somehow, if I don't say the right things to this critical group, who the narrative is that they made us lose a lot of seats, I have to say the right things so that I can gain, their political support. So that is what is driving, I believe, drove some of these comments. But you see, the biggest thing for me in the fight against Galamsey, right, is really how you deal with the politics of it. If you look at, there are strong economic incentives for why people do this, right or wrong. Years ago, when I was doing my dissertation, I looked at, the small-scale mining sector and therefore learned a lot about Galamsey. And I was quite surprised that with all the risk involved and all the other environmental effects, that individuals were still engaging in this risky business. And then I realized the economic incentives are really, really, really strong, right? People's livelihoods, right or wrong, depends on this illegal activity. And so we've made efforts over the years to try and put some parameters. And you see, because it also occurs within the small-scale mining sector, we found ways to at least make sure that we can regularize how small-scale mining activities occurs. Because again, their contribution to the economy is quite huge. So we've gone from PNDC Law 218 to the Small-Scale Minerals Act 2006 as a way of putting together some proper legal framework within which we can have proper mining, artisanal small-scale mining. Then at some point, when the issue of Galamsey was becoming very concerning, we added another approach, which is using force to curb some of these activities. So if you remember, President Kufuor had Operation Flash Out using the military. Former President John Mahama had his interministerial task force. And then there was also Operation Vanguard under this current administration. But again, it just looks like outside of the legal policy framework, it is the politics that is making, I believe, is making this thing very difficult, right? Because it just seems like it has to be what we call a zero-sum game. No winners, no losers, right? And if we're going to keep sort of trying to score political points off of this issue, and not to make excuse for this behavior of this parliamentary candidate. But that is what is driving it. The overly political sensitivity to the Galamsey areas, and this fear that if we are not strict, or if we are too strict, we may lose their votes. But we can't keep thinking about Galamsey in terms of who wins and who doesn't win vote. Yes, there's been competing ideas in terms of how you regularize this and how you ensure that it doesn't cause harmful effects to the environment. But the politics keeps getting in the way. And if the politics continues to get in the way, unfortunately, these are some of the things that you would hear and you would witness.
I see. Does the fact that he's been arrested and his statement taken and granted bail, does that give you some comfort? Of course, people have said that it took the police a bit of time to do so, but whatever the case may be, he was arrested, statement taken, and then he was bailed. Do you get some comfort from that?
Yes, I get some comfort from that. And I'm just hoping that it doesn't end with, his statement has been taken, he's been granted bail, right? So, of course, you want due process to take place. But I just hope that the investigation will be very thorough. And ultimately, if there are laws that has been violated, or whatever the conduct, this reprehensible conduct portrays, that there has to be some kind of, for me, consequences for it, to at least show that we do not condone these things, regardless of whether it's an election year and you're trying to win, political votes, and therefore you want to pander to those who have the votes in these Galamsey areas. That these are things that, imagine even if he's saying that his words were taken out of context, imagine some of the individuals involved in these areas took those words out of context and decided to enact them, right? Assaulting, a police officer, or, assaulting a military officer. These are unpardonable offenses, and you don't want to send a signal that these things are okay to do in the name of an election and in the name of winning votes. No, they are just unacceptable.
I see. Just hang in there for me, Dr. Adonoo Kukisi. It does appear that we have given up on the fight. We don't really hear the commitment or see the commitment we saw from the beginning. Of course, when this new minister, Samabu Jinapor, started his tenure, we saw the conference of chiefs and stakeholders we held at the conference center. Held one also in Kumasi also, where the Asantehene said that we know the people involved and that he was trying to tell him not to speak off script because he may say something and all of that. It appears that we have slowed down on it, and then we've left it for the people to do it the way they want. So we have a lot of these conversations from quote-unquote powerful people to the guys on the ground. We're just lucky that somebody took a video of this and then shared it. Many of such interactions might have happened and we do not know. So we think we are fighting it, but the guys who come and shout that they are fighting it, go down there and tell them this. The regional minister, I'm sure when he gets a platform like this, he will condemn it, he will say Galamsey should stop and all of that. But there he was, people talking and appearing to have acquiesced. Where did we get it wrong?
I've always said that the Galamsey fight is Ghana's narcotic fight. And we need to look at it carefully as the Mexicans are doing, in the sense that our drugman is Galamsey. And the reason why I say that is that there's so many aspects of it. I mean, looking at this movie with Denzel Washington, Training Day, there's some bad apples in police service. There's some bad actors in the mining industry. And at the core of this, I think what he said, he was communicating that police and military service with inappropriate authorization to come to their, company. And let me be very frank with you. We can't hide certain things. Sometimes under coercion or extortion, even well-meaning companies end up paying, certain monies to people who are officials. And I think that in all fairness, this is something that goes on within the mining industry, where I know of instances where small-scale miners with appropriate authorization were extorted. And these are handled at certain levels. And I mean, I'm not here to disclose all of these things, but there are instances where Secret Service people, quote unquote, people who we should expect to know better, do not act by way of appropriate authorization. So I think that, one, we will all always stand with professional police, professional military, professional, be it prisons officers, immigration officers. I believe that anybody acting in uniform in a professional way ought to be respected, ought to be afforded the necessary, respect. But unfortunately, sometimes people go out of their jurisdiction. People, and I'm not here to make a case for minors, but even on our roads, sometimes a policeman may stop you and quote very wrong regulations, trying to extort from people who do not know. And this is something that needs to be looked at carefully, where military and policemen assigned to handle mining-related issues are properly trained, and they know how to approach miners and know how to make sure that questioning does not end up being extortion. And I think that, in all fairness, this whole Galamsey thing, the approach has multiple layers and needs multiple teams to arrive. And I'm even of the opinion that in the future, a visit to site, EPA has to be there, all the bodies.
When the police or military or the security
Yes.
are doing their rounds, as we say.
Yes, because when you go with an entourage, it makes it more, appropriate.
No, but the security guys do their job. It could be covert. I mean,
I'm saying based on some of the reports I know, but in all of this, we will stand with professional policing and militarization, or whatever you want to put that. And it's unfortunate that this video, and in fact, this is a meeting that I would have even thought should not have been even filmed. Forgive me.
But we thank God. We thank God. It was
Well,
filmed.
I'm just saying because
Their own people there
it is. I mean, as you do politics now, you go into certain places
and say inappropriate things.
And in trying to befriend some of these illegal, quote unquote, or people who are doing things that are not appropriate, you may, by way of getting them on your side to make your case, sometimes it's like me in a chief's palace. Sometimes you'll be forced to take local alcohol. I'm just saying. I mean, you get my point.
But if you don't take alcohol, you don't take alcohol.
So my key point here is that it is unfortunate. We will always stand with professional policing, professional work, and I mean that to the core, because people sometimes work out of jurisdiction, and I think that commit the crime, but when you are after the criminal, you also have to use the appropriate professional means. And I think Doctor knows very well that there are instances where even murderers have been let go because the approach or the process that the police and court used were wrong. True or false?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, she's
So-
a doctor, not a lawyer.
Oh no, no. I mean, what I'm saying is that, and I think that in even, and this is from a human rights perspective, even when the crime has been committed, how you process the person has to be appropriate and in a professional way. And the same thing with even health. If an armed robber comes to me maimed, I cannot then add on to the injuries because the person, quote unquote, was an armed robber and was cut or maimed. I have to go about it in a very medical, professional way so that my duties are dispensed appropriately. So that is what I'm making of this, that one, the fight for appropriate mining is a huge thing. It is Ghana's drug problem, let me put it that way. And let me add that the illegal mining activities and some of the places are actually places that drug misuse is also happening.
So you think the comments, Dr. Akonto, do you think the comments are condemned, that they should be condemned? The comments were
it
in
should
bad
be,
taste.
and I think he miscommunicated. But I can glean from what he said that one, the authorizations will be, should be looked at. The police.
Then they've taken that power from them.
Well, I mean, I beg to differ because I know for sure that if through the appropriate procedures, there's a mining site that people need to go to, the appropriate authorization will be granted. It cannot be that no military, no police, no immigration can visit some sites in this country. Even Anglo Gold, even the well-established Newmont,
big
GRA goes to their site.
great.
So I would beg to differ that authorization.
So he's spewing misinformation,
is
inciting the people, and when they get into trouble, he may not be there. But I even said that they should fight back. If they arrest them, he himself will come there with the minister.
And that was I think
with such arrogance,
is bravado, but or youthful exuberance. That's what the right.
But he wants to go to parliament,
is youthful exuberance.
and that's a problem. Doc, I'll come to you.
Yeah.
But you said the comments should be condemned. We've not seen your party, the MPP, condemn that. We've not heard anything. The minister for the region, the chairman of the Regional Security Council, who should know better, was there giggling and laughing.
No. I think that, listen, in all fairness, personally, I haven't met with the minister. He's a member of parliament as well. And as we sit here too, I don't know what commentaries he may have made after this gentleman
Yes,
spoke.
but with all the
Because
condemnation,
it is very likely that after the gentleman spoke,
would have cleaned up.
the minister
Would have
may
cleaned
have
up.
spoken to them.
Yes,
after.
but you don't think that if indeed a thing like that had happened, with all the furore, with all the condemnation, name calling, etc., happening after the video became viral, the minister could have issued a statement to say, no, after this was said, I said ABC. I did not agree to this. I think A, B, and C were said in bad faith. Also, the guy himself issued a statement. So we can't say that the minister is unaware of this, or that the regional party, the party in the region is unaware of this, or the party national is unaware of this. Clearly they are aware, and I know you have your own intelligence on the ground. I'm worried that we've not seen or heard any comment from the party in respect of this.
Well, I think that the General Secretary at some point, I'm anticipating that after further review of everything that transpired there, some commentary will come out. But as to what the regional minister has said or not said or documented, as it stands now,
Well,
but I can
suggesting-
also anticipate that, sometimes they leave it for the police to do their investigations
Yes, but
without
you see,
interference.
the-
Interference.
Yes, the police is one thing. The political party too is one thing. It's a mass party.
Yeah.
And we are building a country. Sometimes the swiftness of your action tells a lot.
No, but the president has said that he'll put his, presidency online, and
but-
he is the father of the party.
So we should
I
should
think
call
that-
back that statement.
I think that
and apply it to this one.
It still holds.
We should call it back and apply it to this.
I think it still holds.
That he will put his presidency on the line,
Now or
so the
before.
people should not go. The presidency is almost done,
Yes.
but he will put it on the line. We should translate.
And
that
I know for a
to
fact
Mahama.
that
I wasn't in Baumia.
I know for a fact that Baumia will not be in support of illegal.
Exactly the point. So we need to hear from. You see, there are many people who are watching or listening who are concerned.
Well, as I sit here, I represent the party
Mm-hmm.
and I represent the MPP to some large extent.
So,
And
so your
and I'm-
condemnation of it,
and
we
I'm
should,
here.
we should construe as official party position.
Well, I'm here stating that we will support and stand with any professional, policing, or as I've added, military. And I stated this categorically, saying that some people act out of jurisdiction, and I will not support people who would act out of jurisdiction. And these are facts. Whether you're in the U.S., Ghana, Mexico, you need proper authorization to enter into somebody's house. You need proper authorization to do a search. And that one is the law, regardless of where you are. So my point here is that, one, we have to admit.
you could conduct a search without a warrant if there's reasonable suspicion.
Agreed.
If there's
but
reasonable
my
suspicion.
point here is that we are in an era where some of these people have been extorting. Let's not discount that. You see, I'm trying as much as possible not to put out some illegalities that people in uniform.
But you know what the consequence
Please, I
would
understand.
But
you
the
mean.
regional minister was there. Isn't he the head of the security?
He
agencies
is.
in the
But
region?
he's
Doc, you get your bite.
He should
So
have been responsible for the rogue, quote unquote, that you're talking about, the security people that extortion, the
Yes.
ones you're
Yes, but
talking about.
that's what I'm saying.
So
that
the head
whatever
of
the minister said, we don't
the
know now.
people are there
But
working
I'm
to
saying
be
that
we
if
can't
the
judge
minister,
him.
if the
We
minister, of
can't
course,
judge him.
we cannot.
Yes.
But if the minister
We can't.
indeed said something to clean up or correct
It would have come
the notion or the thing the gentleman said,
Yeah.
by now, I'm sure we would have known.
The
In
media,
fact,
the media doesn't.
no, he
necessarily-
himself. Are you saying he didn't know about that?
What I'm saying that the media doesn't necessarily thrive on,
Good news.
Good news.
No, what I'm saying is
the
that
media
no,
doesn't
forget
thrive
about
on
the
good
media.
explanations.
Forget about the media. If
So-
the minister
so-
today issues a statement to say, yes, indeed, I was there.
Do you know
I
how
was
many
the guy
media
you saw."
houses will carry that message?
No, I'm saying we would have carried it.
Okay,
We
you
would
would
carry it.
But I'm just
So
telling
and
you
we are
the
and
reality.
yeah, and we are talking.
Yeah.
So we would, if them and he hasn't issued a statement. He hadn't spoken about that, as far as we know. That indeed, yes, I was in that meeting. In fact, this is what I said. Maybe it was videoed by somebody. This is it. A part of it was not. This is it, or it wasn't videoed. I was in that meeting. I said ABC. To reiterate, I do not subscribe to the comment the gentleman made. It was in bad taste. Blah blah blah.
That's
blah.
why I'm qualifying it here and on CCTV that
On
police-
Channel One TV.
Channel One, sorry, police and military people acting with appropriate authorization, I will always stand with them.
Very well.
And I think I've qualified it.
Great.
Because of the culture, some culture of extortion, and that I won't mince my words.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
let's be as realistic. You know, when you don't diagnose properly, you can't treat well.
Well, and I'm
So-
happy the two
Yeah,
of you
yeah, and you
diagnosis-
appreciate that. Yeah,
diagnosis and
if you-
treatment.
I have
If you
two
don't.
comments
All right,
to make.
let's
Like
hear
I
it.
said, the regional minister is the head of the security agencies in the region. So I think that he should have protected his own people, because these are the people he works with. The head of the Rex, is it RegSec?
RegSec, yeah.
He's the head of it. So it's rather unfortunate. Again, but the Prof. Osei Kwapon said something that I think that we are missing, in the fact that he talked about regularization of the miners, you know, because he said in the beginning when Galamsey was getting out of hand, quote unquote, according to him, that there was some attempt to try to, besides the artisanal miners, there was also the group, the Galamseyers, to kind of regularize them, because some of them are depending on that for their livelihood. I would have thought that when President Akufo-Addo said he was going to put his presidency on the line for Galamsey, those were some of the issues that would have been discussed, and see how
but he
best.
did that, didn't he?
Today
There's
it's worse
community
than it's
mining.
been
There's
before.
there's
like
community
that.
mining.
Yeah,
we
there are
have
many
all of that.
positives.
No,
many
I'm-
positives.
Can I finish?
Many
All right,
positives.
you interjected him a few times, but yeah,
I'm
finish.
talking about when he put his, now Galamsey, as you're all seeing, is out of hand. You come to the Western region and you look at all the water bodies from the Pra to the Ankobra to the, what's the other one close to Ivory Coast? All those water bodies have been destroyed. And the water is brown and is spilling into the ocean with all these chemicals. So even some of the decrease in our fish stock in the ocean is attributed to the spillage of these harsh chemicals into the ocean. So as we can all tell, and by all indications and by all data, even governmental data, is that this matter, like the Honorable said, is Ghana's drug war. So that, and it's not getting any better. But I would have thought that since he put his candidacy on the line, these are some of the things, and that by now, 8 years when he's about to exit, that things would have been better rather than worse. But by all indications, we are not any better. Actually, we were even better in his first year than we are in his 8th year. So that is where the issue lies. Again, like everything else we have discussed today, there is a lack of leadership. There's a leadership crisis in this country. Our leaders don't take responsibility. Our leaders don't take, try not to be accountable. Our leaders turf things off to someone else's problem. There's a new minister, so he's going to solve it. The other one that was there for 7 years, he didn't know that he was supposed to solve this issue. The medicines came a year and a half ago when the other guy was there.
We finished
No,
with
but
that.
that is the same issues that keep cropping
This
up.
minister is not new, but he's working.
The issues are cropping up in different versions of the same thing.
Metamorphosed.
Yes, it's metamorphosing into something different. You know, it's an amoeba with a, what's that thing called, pseudopod, and it keeps moving around, and every time it engulfs something, it's the same problem. Then it moves another pseudopod, and now engulfs something else. So overall, it's the same problem. Ghana is in a crisis. We are at a crossroads.
I see.
And that crossroads is the lack and the crisis, the core of the crisis that Ghanaians are in today is a total lack of leadership.
Great.
And a total lack of accountability by our leaders and a total disregard for the well-being of Ghanaians. That is where we are today, and that is the issue that we're going to be voting on in December 7, 2024.
I see. This is the big issue. We are coming to you live from 97.3 City FM and also on ChannelOne television. We also on social media. A few of your messages that have come through here. Doc, it appears we are very much alive in Escado Kitan constituency. Yeah. Shankiki says, Dr. Grace, Ayesu Dankwa, a beacon of hope for the people of Escado Kitan constituency. This one says, Gideon Okran says she's very super. She must win the Escado Kitan constituency. Doc, these are your people. Koku Campbell says a must for Dr. Grace. I have to call it Grace Bidiakun. For that's former statistician, Dr. Grace Ayesu Dankwa. John Lee Maba says greetings to our incoming MP for Escado Kitan constituency, intelligent and humble woman, Professor Dr. Grace Ayesu Dankwa. Your fan base is huge. All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll conclude on this and move to the constitutional matter. Don't go away. You're welcome back. This is a big issue. My name is Selorm Adonoo. We are live on 97.3 City FM and, of course, on ChannelOne TV. We're also live on Facebook. We are happy to have you join us, and we are happy to read your comments out to the rest of the world. Kindly share your comments with us if you have any. And yes, we have been dealing with the matter of illegal mining, popularly called Galamsey, and asking whether the political class has failed Ghanaians in a fight against Galamsey. The matter which brought up this is the parliamentary candidate for the Amenfis constituency of the MPP, who went to meet some Galamseyers and told them to fight back if they are arrested by the soldiers, by police or soldiers. According to him, the power to arrest them has been taken away from the security agencies. I don't know how he said so. I don't know the context. He said we've taken him out of context, though. And that video or the engagement, video of the engagement became viral. A lot of people have said many things about it, and throws into question the political will to end the crisis in terms of Galamsey. Significant in all of this is that the regional minister, Western Regional Minister, Kobna Ochri Dakum, was there. He is the head of the Security Council. He was there, and he appeared to have been, he was actually smiling at the comments when the young man, PC, was making the comments. And people think that all of that put together is not good. Let me speak to Dr. John Osai Kwapong. Doc, is it strange or concerning, let me say concerning, that days after the video went viral, the gentleman arrested, bailed, etc., we've not heard anything from his political party. No condemnation or whatsoever is come from the party. We've not heard from the regional minister who was there, at least to explain to us why he was there, what he said after, whether he endorsed the statement by the young man or not. Is it concerning to you that we've not seen any of these?
Yes, it's a little concerning, but as I also said, in my initial comments, I'm wondering if part of that sort of hesitation or being careful in terms of how each of these entities that you've mentioned, whether it's the party through an official statement or the regional minister, as of now, as you've said, we don't know whether he has said anything or not. If part of what is, explaining that has to do with, again, this narrative that, look, in 2020, we lost a lot of seats in parliament because of how we handled this Galamsey issue. And we are in an election year. We are 6 months away from an election. We ought to be very careful how we deal with this Galamsey issue and the votes from Galamsey areas. This is just my thinking, that I'm wondering if that is what is causing some of that, hesitation. Probably they might, have a conversation with him in the background to say, look, such comments are distasteful, etc., etc. But the public posturing, I'm wondering if it is being fueled by this narrative that we ought to be very careful how we speak about Galamsey in an election year.
I see. So what should the signal be really? I mean, election is upon us. Stakes are very high, with the background that because the government in 2020 and even before that was stiff or stern on Galamsey's, government lost ground. This is a crucial election. They want to break the 8. What should be the approach? How do we deal with it?
I mean, I think the candidates for office, the 2 presidential candidates, parliamentary candidates in areas that are greatly affected by this, should continue to put, for me, policy program ideas out there, right? I mean, way back in 2013, 2014, former President Mahama had talked about putting in place some regularized framework where, you register, proper regulatory enforcement, etc., etc. I recall having a conversation with a gentleman who grew up in one of these mining areas who was more for a total ban on it because he said these things might not work. But that was one idea. I mean, if you look at this administration, right, if you go back to the small-scale community mining operational manual from September 2021, as well as the National Alternative Employment and Livelihood Program, I believed that those were good ideas to try and deal with this menace. If you think back to last month, for example, again, former President Mahama, when he spoke at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, proposed some ideas, a legal framework involving traditional leaders, creating mining districts, etc., etc. Right? Again, for me, these are all, good ideas, good, policy proposals that we need to have very frank conversations and debate these ideas in terms of how, they can help us stem this issue of Galamsey. But as I also keep saying, when all is said and done, the politics does make the going ahead with some of these ideas some of these really good ideas very challenging. And we need to build some national consensus, political consensus around the fact that, look, we don't have to make this Galamsey issue a winning issue for some and a losing issue for some, right? That we all need to recognize that it is bad, it is hurting the environment. As you know, Dr. Ayensu Dankwa said, they are seeing a lot of medical cases linked to, you know, the occurrence of Galamsey in some of these areas. And, you know, you know, you have to acknowledge that it is truly a menace, and hopefully we can build consensus around some of these policy ideas and enforce them and have the political will to really deal with this.
I see. Galamsey is bad, right? The effects of it is bad. How do we get the people, the citizenry, to a point where we will understand that it is bad and really bad, just beyond the rhetoric, beyond talking about it, so that the citizens themselves will disapprove of persons who do illegal mining? How do we do that, despite the immediate pecuniary gains that a few people may derive from that? Okay, how do we get the generality of the public to come to that point, so that if the public abhors it and it's obvious, persons who do it will not even be afraid of police or military? They know their own people could come after them. How do we get there? Or how do we get there?
But I actually think that in general, citizens do recognize that Galamsey is bad. I'll be very surprised if citizens, given what they see around them in some of these Galamsey areas, do not recognize how bad this is. But yes, we will have to continue to intensify you know, public education, you know, more and more. I think recently I read a news story where some cocoa farmers, I think, had gone to protest some Galamseyers by raising concerns about their activities and its impact on cocoa farming and their cocoa farms in that area. But overall, I will be very hard pressed to believe that citizens are not at a point where, when they see some of these environmental effects, some of these pollutions of our water bodies, that they do not recognize that Galamsey is bad. I think citizens do.
So if they know, why, how do I put it? Why haven't we seen the outrage? You know, is it because of poverty? Is it because of the economic gains that a few people derive from it, and that trickles down? What's the problem then, if we know really so that it is bad, and Ghana Water says that we spend more money now in treating the water, after a while we may end up importing water? You know, it does appear that these realities or facts do not hit the publics the way it should. Otherwise, I mean, the response would have been different. Are we not doing something right?
And you know, sometimes I also say to myself, is it that in relation to other quote unquote problems, that maybe some of these things pale in comparison to that? So for example, let me use the issue of corruption as an example, which I wrote about this week, right? Because I'm quite intrigued that if you look at, for example, Afrobarometer and some of the polls, so far polls that we're seeing, you never see corruption being ranked really high as an important national challenge or as an important problem. You would always see issues such as unemployment, jobs, health, education, right? And I'm not saying those other things are not important, but it's as though we also do not recognize the corrosive effects that corruption can have on some of these issues. But as I try to make sense of it, I say to myself, well, maybe perhaps when all of our national challenges and problems are listed, maybe in the minds of citizens, corruption may be bad, but not having a job and living in a bad economy is worse than, you know, the issue of corruption. I wonder if it is the same thinking that sometimes then would go into an issue like, you know, Galamsey, right? That yes, we recognize that it is bad, but when I'm living in a struggling economy or when I can't find a job, then maybe the concerns over galamsey and the environment perhaps pales in comparison to that. But again, then it would mean that we would have to really intensify that the public education piece, because like you said, Ghana Water has warned that it is costing them a lot more to treat our water now, and if we are not careful, a time would come when we may have to import water. Again, Dr. Grace Ayesudanko has talked about some of the medical effects that the health effects that they are seeing. And so I don't know if maybe until it reaches a crisis crescendo, we won't feel it, but we also don't want it to reach there. But again, maybe it's also because given other challenges that we face, maybe Ghanaians are ranking those things much higher than concerns over galamsey.
I see. Let's take concluding remarks on this. Ladies first again.
On the galamsey issue, I think that we need to take a good look at it. One, we need to protect our security agencies, and two, we need to look at what Prof. Osei-Kwapon said about the livelihoods that some people depend on this for their livelihoods. And we need to strike a balance between the two while we are protecting the environment at the same time. This takes like big brains and big, it takes a lot of oomph and big brains to get to that point where there's a good balance between it. Because I'm sure in other countries that have do mining, they have laws and it's not polluting their water. So maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and learn from best practices what other people are doing and why their waterways and their rivers have not been polluted. So I'm sure there's a fine line between it. But again, as I've said repeatedly, it is a leadership crisis problem. If we have leaders that really care about the issue, if we have leaders that really care about the people, if we have leaders that really care about our health, if we have leaders that care about our environment, there's something we can do. We are not the only country that has gold on the ground, right? And some people have done it, and we could have used that whole thing to help ourselves.
We are not clear about NDC's strategy for the sector, though.
Our manifesto is coming up.
So we should wait for the manifesto.
It will spell it out clearly what NDC is going to do. And we have big brains, and we would look at the mining industry holistically, and we will also appreciate that people's livelihoods are based on it. We will also appreciate the fact that we need a better environment, and we'll also appreciate the fact that our health is important. So we have sat at the table and we have thought about all these issues, and we have thought about it holistically with the well-being of Ghanaians at heart. So I can assure you and the public that the NDC's stance on the galamsey issue as well as our environment would be clear, and people would know that
Dr. Bawumia says that
we do care about
he
the
will want to
people.
bring in the chiefs. The chiefs will be around the table. He will amend the laws such that the chiefs will have a say in how licenses are given to people, etc. You think that's a good way to start?
Dr. Bawumia has been the vice president for the last 8 years, so I'm not sure why now he's going to
Yeah,
give
he's
us-
not seeing it. Better
He
late
should
than
have
never.
No, he should have seen it a while ago. But
But
let's
he
put
has
what-
not seen it.
Let's put what Dr. Bawumia said aside, because I don't
No,
believe
but so
anything he says. But
okay,
the
so
issue is-
okay, maybe I am saying it.
Thank you.
If I want to, give more power to the chiefs, would it be a good way to start?
I don't believe in what Dr. Bawumia says. He's
No, I'm saying
quoted
it.
as the biggest liar in the country.
No,
but
I'm
that's
saying
not
it.
the issue. The issue about the chiefs, I think that it's very important. We cannot have a holistic look at this issue without involving the chiefs. In Ghana, most of the land is owned by tribes and chiefs, and it's the families that own the land. So before you do anything about land, I strongly believe that the chiefs have to be at the table because they're big stakeholders in the matter. So as I said, the NDC's look at it will be involving the chiefs, involving the political actors, involving the local people. It's going to be a very good holistic view at this issue and the solutions that will be long-lasting for Ghanaians and also for our environment, as well as, more importantly, our health, because we believe that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation.
Great. Doc Dixon, Adoma Kukisi, it does appear that we have failed at it. 8 years, it gets worse by the day. Now we are having your people inciting hungry, unemployed young people that if you are doing the wrong thing, security people come, face off with them. When they arrest you, we will come and free you. It appears we have failed. Where do we go from here?
Well, I'm of the opinion that some investments have been made into reducing the damage to water bodies, though not enough. More has to be done. And I'm encouraged every day as I see advances being made to regularize, like this community mining program. Some efforts have been made. There are more positives if we look for them. But I think that overall, this issue is a huge one, and we need to be mindful of all the stakeholders involved and the fact that the youth need alternative jobs, which will then dissuade them from entering into, an activity that takes life. Mudslides can happen. All kinds of risk are involved. If they themselves are not dying from the mercury, their offsprings will, be at risk of cancer and all these things. So it is mind-boggling, and I think that it's a very painful cancer within our country, and we all need to be at the table to proffer solutions that are workable, and we also need to encourage the governmental actors to do the right thing. As we talked about regularization, it's almost like building a house in Accra. Sometimes your permits are delayed for so long that people proceed to build before they get their building permits. And I think that that bit with mining is also something we need to look at, making sure that the process of acquiring appropriate license to use the proper ways and means to mine is made easier, so that many good actors do not become bad actors. It's a very complicated thing. And in concluding, I think that there should be a special task force who are paid well.
Task force again?
No, listen, who are paid well. And I'll draw doctors' attention to the fact that the narcotic police are paid so that they are not compromised. And I really think that we need to look at all of that, so that the military or police people we send to these sites are well paid, that when they see fair money from the miners, they are not compromised. These are things that we need
I think it goes to value. Yeah. All right.
How long has Honorable been in Parliament?
I've been there for 3 years.
Okay, so 4 years.
He's a lawmaker.
You don't do laws by just yourself.
Right.
You need these recommendations.
Very well. So we'll take a short break. Dr. Kapon is there. We'll hear him speak quite a lot on the next chapter, which has to do with the Constitution Review Consultative Committee. A number of things have been suggested. For example, the president should pay taxes on his salary. We should expunge deputy ministers. National Security Council should be expanded. We should put a cap on ministers. They think that the upper limit should be 25. Ghana should be run by 25 ministers. Appointment of ministers from parliament. They think that if you are an MP and you are given a ministerial post, you resign from parliament, a by-election is conducted. Later when the president decides to sack you, then now you go home, you become an ordinary person and all of that. So we will come back and deal with that using the rest of the time. This is the big issue. Don't go away. Hi, you're welcome back. This is a big issue. This is the final lap of it, where we use the rest of the time to look at some constitutional matters. We've always spoken about the 1992 Constitution. 32 years we've been running it. It's been the most successful constitution in the history of our country. But people say that the Constitution is Ghana's problem. Others disagree. people think that the Ghanaian has to be looked at, not the constitution necessarily. Now, the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, set up a team to look at the constitution, to make some suggestions about areas which should be looked at. The team, chaired by Clara Kasati, Bieri Kasati, did some work, and in April submitted a draft report. And some of the things that has been suggested is that we have too many ministers. We need to put an upper limit on the number of ministers we have. They say 25. Is that feasible? They say that we should run the country without regional ministers and deputy regional ministers. In any case, there are DCs and MCs, so we don't need regional ministers. Do you agree? They also say that the president must pay tax on his salary. They also say that this thing about somebody going to parliament or from parliament shouldn't be arrested and all of that should be looked at. You know, processes could be served on the person. As it stands now, you can't, as honorable minister, I say, okay, remember I say, you know, okay, he's not from parliament. He's not going to parliament or coming from parliament. If he were, a bailiff could not just meet him and serve him a court document. They said we need to look at that, take out the arrest, but they should be served with processes and all of that because people abused it. Now, and a few other things they have suggested. Appointment of ministers from parliament, we should not, you know, and a few things. People also think that it's not a constitution. We need to focus on the Ghanaian, the value system. We need to build a Ghanaian value system so that when they see an avenue for corruption, they don't think about it. They have to walk past it. Because if you put a corrupt man up there, he will abuse the constitution, which will be good. A good constitution, a bad man will abuse it. But if there's a good man there, and even the constitution gives him wide powers, he could take advantage of to do bad things. Because he has good conscience, he will not take advantage of it. That is a debate. Let me speak to Dr. Kwapong, who is a governance person. This discussion about constitution has been on for a long time. Doc, do we need to review the constitution? Do we need a new constitution? What do you make of the recommendations that have come up so far? Which of them stands out to you? Stands taller or tallest to you?
So for me, my position on the Constitution is that the Constitution is an inanimate object, right? And it takes people to give it life. So all the words, the text of the Constitution cannot come alive by itself. You need body or some persons to give it agency. So for me, I've always disagreed in principle with those who want to blame all the problems or challenges that we face in the Fourth Republic on the Ghanaian Constitution. One of the examples that I often cite is Article 71 and this whole issue of ex gratia. All the Constitution says is that, you know, we set up an emoluments committee that determines the appropriate emoluments for certain groups of officers, right? The question is, how do we do that? The how do we do that and how we make that come alive is what has been causing the angst that, you know, some Ghanaians have expressed over issues of, you know, the ex gratia. But the Constitution never said explicitly that that is what should be done. That is why I am always very careful when you know, I engage in conversations where there are some individuals who say throw out the entire Constitution and start all over again. No, I don't think that's the issue. It's, you know, the practices that we put in place, the administrative processes that we put in place, the laws that we enact to reflect some of these constitutional directives. That is what I think we should even look at. It doesn't mean that if there are places that you can genuinely amend the Constitution to structure or reassure. But for me, in principle, I don't buy this wholesale argument that the Fourth Republican Constitution is the main problem and therefore we need a totally different one. For some of the recommendations being made, for example, I will support not having you know, MPs also serve as ministers, only because if you look at some of the issues that sometimes come up around absenteeism, You hear things like, well, when you have a member of parliament who also doubles as a member of the executive branch of government by serving as a minister, it becomes challenging giving your full attention to either of those responsibilities. I don't know why the framers of the Constitution put in that provision that the majority of ministers must come from parliament, but it is the one provision that if we can get rid of, I would wholly support. If you're a parliamentarian, focus on your legislative duties, and then if you're a minister or a deputy minister, focus on your executive branch duties. Then there's the issue of capping, the ministers at 25. I mean, yes, the committee has done a lot of good work in some of these recommendations and why they are proposing some of these changes. I think that part of this cap of 25 is also being fueled by what we witnessed in the first term of this administration, where there were as many as 120 ministers. That created this whole conversation about the cost of government, big government, etc., etc. But former President Obama once said something which I agree with him. He said for him, the conversation is not about necessarily big government or small government. It's about efficient and effective government. Yes, it doesn't mean that we should appoint 120, 150 ministers. But if you are also going to cap it at 25, but it does not necessarily change the cost of running an entire government machinery, and doesn't make government any more effective and any more efficient in delivering on the basic social and economic goods for citizens, then what does the cap, necessarily, achieve? So that's my one concern about, about the cap. If it is solely driven by, this high idea of big government and the cost of quote unquote big government. Lastly, the president paying taxes. From what I've read, it's so that the president, he or she would serve as a good example for the rest of citizens. Because even though they are president, they are also a citizen of Ghana. So if the laws of taxation should apply to them, I have no qualms about that.
I see. What do you think of the conversation that is the values of the Ghanaian that must take center stage in all of this? Let's focus on the values. We need to teach proper values in schools. We need to even distill for ourselves values as a people, values that will drum into our heads right from primary school, in fact, nursery school to university, so that when you see the Ghanaian somewhere, you know that these are the values, and the value system is good. No matter how the constitution looks like, we will do better. What do you think about that discussion as well?
I mean, yes, there's a place for that. There's a place for the values that guide, how we view a constitution, how we view power, how we exercise power. But the other thing too is that, that value system in terms of how you see and value power is both taught, but it also something that you sort of, cultivate, along the way. And part of that cultivation is your ability to take feedback, from citizens, how well you listen to citizens, how well you listen to your peers, how well you look at best practices, around the world. I think all of those things does contribute to making sure that all of those things can guide the kind of behavior that you want to be able to look at and say, this doesn't constitute, quote unquote, an abuse of public power, or does not violate the intent and the spirit of what has been written in our Constitution.
Great. Doc, Grace, what do you make of the suggestions and all of that we've been hearing? Which of the recommendations do you think make more sense?
Thank you. I'm agreeing with Prof. Osei-Kwapong that there's nothing wrong with our current constitution. I think the constitution is just fine for every aspect of our governance structure, there's a way to manage it in the Constitution. The framers thought about it, they went through a thorough process and they came up with a Constitution. So I'm not a believer of let's go and amend. I mean, there might be room for amendment of certain issues, but overall, I don't think we should do any constitutional, we should change the Constitution. And blaming everything on the Constitution is also, I don't also agree with that. As Prof. Kwapon said, it is the people, and some of the, like he talked about the emolument, it didn't say that go and give them vehicles and give them petrol and give them house help and all that. It just says that these group of people need to be taken extra care of. So it's up to us who are interpreting the document to put in the right measures. And also, you know, like you said, I think you said earlier that you could have a rogue president, which I think we are in right now, who now would just...
So law-abiding human rights president.
That's what they told us in the beginning, that he was law-abiding and human rights. That's what we all thought until 8 years down the line. We realized that he's not law-abiding and he's not even a human rights advocate. Look at what is happening with his party regarding the military, the issue we just went through. Look at what is happening with Ahmed Swale. They killed him. We still don't have... No, we're talking about the human rights aspect.
The security agencies are working on it.
So
you
let
can't
me not
go
digress.
to the bush and look for the people.
Okay, so let me not digress.
Great.
But that is where we are now. That we have seen that sometimes when you give a good document like this to people who are not, who don't pay attention to detail, rogue people, it can go haywire. And that is our situation in Ghana right now. And again, it goes back to the whole thing I've been reiterating and talking about ad nauseum, which is a serious leadership crisis that we're undergoing in Ghana. But at the same time, I want to ask Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, has he been around the whole time, or is just now that he knows that he's going out of office that he's now coming to recommend to us some constitutional review?
No, he set up a committee to look at it.
When? Now, like 6 months towards his the end of his...
No, but if the idea has now come, you don't say I'm leaving, so I throw the idea away.
They were all here.
No, but the idea has now come, or the need has now arisen.
When President Akufo-Addo appointed 124 ministers, where was Oseche Mensah-Bonsu?
I see. No, he said the problem.
7 years
problem
down
was
the
big.
line with 124. He told us he needed 124 because he was in a hurry.
Yeah,
right. Now fast forward to 2024. Where is the hurry, and what did he do with the 124 ministers? We have Cecilia Dapa, who has a lot of money under her bed, and now she's cleared. So this is exactly...
How does this come in?
Oseche Mensah-Bonsu? I just want to know.
How does this come in?
See, what I'm seeing now is very interesting, because it looks like everything all of a sudden is new. Like we haven't been in this Ghana here. Like some of us just fell from the sky, and all of a sudden, Oseche Mensah-Bonsu has seen the light and is realizing that, oh my God, we should have had 100 exactly, like a eureka moment all of a sudden. Oh my God, 125. 7 years down the line, this man is coming to tell us that, oh, 125 is even too much. Let's even take it down to 25.
No, he is not saying
Why didn't he tell Akufo-Addo then? Why didn't he set up this committee to tell Akufo-Addo in 2016, 2017, that Master, please, your 125 there is not going to work for us,
Better
Ghana.
late than never. Better late than never.
See, it's, again, you're accepting mediocrity. This man was in Parliament. Hasn't he been in Parliament the whole time?
All right, yeah, and he's the longest serving MP.
John Mahama has already said in his visionary moment and in his...
But he's been there before. He's now seeing it.
But he's coming back and he's going
to...
He has told us.
He didn't see it.
But he didn't have 125 ministers.
But he had a lot.
At one time when he had 80-something ministers.
His was bad, but this is worse. So now it's a battle of the bads.
No, it's not a battle of the bads. One was much better. 80-something versus 125.
Great. Let me conclude.
Even statistically, there's a big difference. He said he's going to cut off the emolument, the Article 71. He's going to abolish them. Yes, but President Baumia is only copying from President Mahama what President Mahama has already said. So in his infinite wisdom, President Mahama is going to solve all these problems that suddenly Oseche Mensah-Bonsu has found.
Right.
So he should hang in there. He should relax. December 7th, we'll change the government. President Mahama will be the president December 8th. And all these issues that he has suddenly recognized will be resolved under the good John Mahama
That's
presidency.
Grace Ayensu Dankwa, MP aspirant for Escado Ketan. The doctor, concluding comments. I mean, your take on this and concluding comments.
I'm of a different opinion. And let me cite the need for people to trade on the job and the need for the deputies, not the regional, but the ministers.
Yes.
Because it inures the benefit of the state when there are others who apprentice at some point.
Yeah, but there was no problem with that. It's the regional the regional and deputy minister that has the issue.
Yeah, but
So they should
it's
reduce
coming back to 25.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that still comes back to, you know, that. So and let me be very difficult here. People make decisions in those positions that cost the nation far more than the number of ministers that we always talk about. And if we quantify in actual terms the amount of money is paid to deputy ministers, I think that we should all maybe stop the argument about the number of ministers, because I'll be very frank with you. I would rather have even many ministers if the decisions they are making are not costing the state. So it isn't necessarily even about the number of ministers, but the decision, the quantum. I mean, some decisions cost the nation far more than adding on 30 deputy ministers.
Great.
So that also ties in with the fact that if our value system is correct, and we're doing things on a value for money and appreciating the need to develop our nation, then these numbers might not even be that necessary. But then again, India is so huge, their numbers of ministers quite appropriate. And I think that we need to look at even the Chinese model. Very few ministers, but look at the volume of people in China. And I'm also of the opinion that if you choose, for instance, a constituency like mine, if you empower me, I can do what 10 MPs can do. So it comes down to giving me what is appropriate so that I can do the work, not necessarily splitting my constituency into 4 or 5. And one thing I'm recommending in the future, I believe that if taxes are well executed, so that, for instance, the number of people in my constituency with X amount of phones, all that revenue comes to my constituency, we can then apply it to do more, so that it's based on the population in your constituency. Here's the case: taxes are not shared, equitably, and bigger constituencies are struggling because the cake is shared equally.
Equally, not equitably.
And
so that's an Eureka moment too.
And that is no.
It's like I feel
It's all right.
I just also arrived from Mars.
We have to go. All right, so thanks so much. This is how we conclude today's edition of the program. My guest, Dr. Dixon Adomaku Kisi, Anyaso Otum MP, Dr. Grace Ayesu Dankwa, NDC parliamentary candidate for Escado Ketan, whose constituents have been on my Facebook feed today, and Dr. John Osei-Kwapon, researcher, policy analyst, governance person with CDD. He joined us on Zoom. My name is Selorm Adonoo. Thanks so much for doing the viewing and the listening. Catch you same time next week. Have a good afternoon.